helpful.
Right. We should be good. We should be good. So, hello, Rugs, WillE, beautiful people.
Hey, morning, man.
Morning. How we doing?
Bit later for me.
Yeah,
I'm doing good, man.
It is. It feels like morning to me because I genuinely have just woke up. I needed to be top form for both of you today, so I needed to make sure that I'd had a nice nap because I'm old. Well, plus the fact I got woke up at 6 o'clock this morning by 2 screaming kids. So
Lovely.
It's understandable. But how are you, WillE? It is. I was saying earlier, it is really good to actually, get to talk to you properly. I know we've spoke on DMs and stuff, but
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good. Excited to be here, talk about Wrath a little bit more. I feel like I'm going to have a little bit less knowledge than you two guys about the whole expansion, but hopefully we can bring up some interesting topics.
So, right, mate. This is a third episode. Ruggs has carried me for 2 of them, so I'm sure he'll carry on. We'll
WillE,
both
don't
be
sell
fine.
yourself short. Don't sell yourself short, brother. You got it, man. Your content is great, and you definitely have some good Wrath knowledge, brother.
Yeah,
it's great to have you on.
I'm trying to build it. I appreciate that.
Definitely. And how are you, Ruggs, my man?
Hey, man, I'm doing good. I just finished a cup of coffee. I just woke up. I mean, hell, it's 11 a.m. where I live right now, so I'm hanging in there. But I know WillE's going to breathe some life into me here, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I've also had my coffee, so I'm good for like the next however long it takes to wear off.
10 minutes or something.
Yeah, not long.
Yeah, can we wrap this up, boys, please?
Yeah, wrap it up.
I saw your Sunwell kills as well, Ruggs, on YouTube. I watched your KJ one and Muru one this morning. So congrats,
thanks,
nice, congrats on 6 of 6.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy
It was a ton of fun. They made me tank on Muru though. It was bullshit, and they made me pilot dragons on Kill Jaden. I was very upset about it.
Yeah.
It's not how I like to play a video game.
Oh, that's doing all the heavy lifting though.
You don't want to be doing that stuff.
Absolutely not.
You should just say you're not bear spec. That's it. I'm not spec to play bear. Sorry.
I used to say I never did the bear quest.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I liked the final comment though of the video. Have you noticed on KJ when literally on your KJ video, the very very final 1 second is you going, "That was easy."
Yeah, I was so pissed off, dude. We pulled the boss. We killed it in like 4 attempts or something, and most of the wipes were just me like messing up because I didn't have my macros right for piloting the dragon. They just weren't working for me, and as soon as I got them right, like we killed a boss, and I was just so pissed because I was doing such good DPS, and then I had to go run and like do this stupid dragon mechanic. I was so mad, and so I was just pissed off. Like, oh, that was fucking easy. Turned off the stream, got out of there.
No, awesome. Right, WillE. Obviously, everyone has to go through it, mate. I'm sorry, but the introduction. People obviously. I can't imagine there's a single person watching that doesn't either know who you are or hasn't seen one of your videos or many of your videos. So I'm not going to insult people.
So there's something.
Yeah. But what I thought would be nice is actually, because I've watched you for a long time. Like I have watched you, since you first started, or since I discovered you at the beginning of Classic. Basically, was when I first discovered you. But I don't know much about you, so I thought it would be interesting, the people who watch you every week to get to know a bit more about the man behind the camera.
Yeah, mysterious man. Yeah, sure.
So Ruggs, grill him. Do it.
Yeah, WillE, start us off. Tell us a little bit about your WoW experience, where it all started. You don't have to give us your full testimony, 20-minute thing. Just like, where did you start playing? All things from retail to classic to private servers, anything.
Okay, well, you can call me Will. Will's fine if you want to do that. I started playing late-ish vanilla. I wish I could remember the day, because I swear everyone remembers the exact time frame when they started playing, but it was just late-ish vanilla. Like all true gamers, I played a female night elf hunter with a female-sounding name, because MMORPGs and many men online role-playing girls. So what can I say? I was on Airy Peak EU, and I played there for a very long time. Most of the time, I was just pretty casual. Doing a bit of PvP, mainly Battlegrounds. I didn't properly start to get into raiding until 10-mans in Cataclysm that was heroic, at which point we cleared all of tier 11, which to this day remains one of my favourite tier ever. I thought tier 11 was a super good opening tier for the game. And from that point onwards, sort of bounced in and out of playing with people I knew from back in the day from Cataclysm or around then. And I heard about Classic coming out. I was just really hyped for it. And started writing a few videos. I thought, hey, I can look at what the classes do, and that could be fun. And the videos ended doing really well, so I just sort of stuck with it. Private server wise, weirdly enough, I pretty much never played one. I just heard about Classic, and I was like, oh, I'll try it then, which I think is quite different from most people's experiences. At the moment, I'm on Pirewood Village, and I have been playing a Warlock since the start of Classic. But midway through TBC, my mental capacity to press Shadow Bolt really started to wear down. So I did end up swapping to a Rep Pally, which I'm currently playing in the Sunwell, and we are on Kill Jaden.
Very nice.
So
what guild are you in? Are you still playing with those guys from Kata?
Oh no, that's a few of them tried Classic out, but they didn't really stick with it. And Coffee Addicts Anonymous, which is a guild I found on Pirewood.
Are you excited about Dragonflight? I know, like, it's well off topic of today, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah. No, not at all.
You don't want to channel your inner dragon?
I think it just looks so underwhelming, to be honest. Like, I watch. This is a weird thing to complain about, but the cinematic, I was genuinely bored. I was like, when does it get going? There was this stony boy wandering about for like 3 minutes. I don't know who he is. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's doing. I was like, just like, you look at even Warlords of Draenor, you have like times change in Cataclysm, you have Deathwing flying out the earth. You have all these other cool things, and I was just kind of really underwhelmed. And they got into the features. The talent changes look interesting, but World of Warcraft for me is raiding. That's what I like doing in the game. And I'm already committed to playing Classic. I know I'm going to be raiding in Wrath. So I sort of, if I was going to do it, I'd want to do it on a Mythic level, because I always enjoy trying to push as much as I can. I just don't really feel as though I have the time for it. So it's probably legitimately going to be the first expansion I don't pre-order and play online on a launch.
I respect that. I respect your restraint.
Yeah. So do I. I'm going to have to.
The damn ability to be able to see it and be like, that's not for me is admirable for sure.
I'm thinking about making it into a whole video, being like, this is cool. It's not even the case that, because I know a lot of people who, they come back each expansion, they're like, oh, I want the game to prove itself to me. They're going to be different this time. At this point in time, it's like, it's just not really interesting to me. So
I'm not that into
here, play Wrath, and then maybe I'll check it out later if things are different. But
yeah, like you said about the talents, though, the talents just didn't look good, did they? Or I didn't think they did. I looked at them.
The talent tree. What are they doing? Sorry, bro, I didn't take interrupt damage loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, Ruggs, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, Scotty and I mean, we kind of just suffer from this disease where anytime any fresh server is going to come out, we are on it. Whether that's retail, classic, or another private server, we're probably going to check it out.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate truth.
I mean, the fresh is always so fun, right?
Well, it's the reason why retail is sort of the only reason Dragonflight is actually calling me a little bit. That certainly more than Shadowlands did, is because it's got a new class. So it's like, oh, great! Anyone who plays that class is going to be starting in the same boat. Oh, sign me up for it. That I'm going to go on the Evoker just because. Yeah. Every other Evoker out there is going to be starting at exactly the same place. So that's true, sort of that does. Sorry, but anyway. I went really off topic. I threw a Dragonflight curveball in there. I always
it's all good.
You do, yeah.
WillE, do you think you could tell us where you do most of your content creation and where people can find you?
Pretty much all on YouTube, but don't stream at the moment. I did a while back, but just YouTube, same name, WillE. Twitter at MMOWillE, and that's basically it for me. Yeah.
Tell us, what are you going to be maining in Wrath? This is my favorite question.
Oh, okay. I'm really happy that I've been the one person in the raid who gets this spot. Does that give you a clue what it is?
Warrior.
I think I do. Is it Rep Paladin?
It's not a Paladin, though. It's the other thing I used to play, Lock. So
demo. You're going demo. You're going to go demo Lock.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy about that. Looks fun to play. Pretty good on damage, good AoE, good single target. Should get priority loot, never get benched. Thumbs up. I'll take that.
Definitely.
Never getting benched is huge.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you're most excited for Wrath Classic?
Playing demo, basically. I've spent the Rep Paladin mount's pretty fun with the whole twisting dynamic. and that's why I sort of gravitated towards it rather than playing the lock. But just having a bit more of a advanced rotation and better ways to improve my performance rather than I hope Shadowbolt crits.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's potential, just since we're on the topic, I think there's potential for us to see more than one demo lock in raids.
I was thinking
where you set it up so that you aren't like able to overwrite your spell power snapshot to the raid. And because I think demo just overall is going to do really, really good damage, especially in phase 1. I think there's a sneaky play where you take 2 or maybe even 3.
Well, I think because Classic, is notorious for quick kill times and, bosses' HP so low. Affliction, when I've done a comp video recently, people were saying, like, man, everyone's going to roll Affliction locks. I was like, well, we won't be. Because, the where they start to really climb on the meters is at sub 25%. And if sub 25% takes about 20 seconds, they're not going to get the time. They're not going to get that ramp up time at the end.
Just on another subject, one of the things I'm going to be interested about, because this has happened with every version of Classic so far, and you can have all the information in the world on Wrath, but when you throw this many people at a common problem, new things happen, or things that people don't expect happen, like Kebab Warriors and TBC, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really, no one really knew that was going to be a thing, I don't think. We'll see what happens, what's different.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree. Yeah, but things will change, and that's why I'm not fixating fully on this is best on private servers, this is best here, this is best there, because we know most of it's going to stay true. There's going to be a lot of it that does stay true, but there will be things that come out that either weren't scripted properly on private servers, which we know there's loads of those already. We know there's loads of problems with private servers, and like you say, when everybody's pretty much everybody who plays, let's say, a mage, will be on the mage Discord. So there's so many people that are discussing constantly, trying new things. I think when you play on private servers, they're very stuck in their ways. They're like, no, this is how you do things on a mage. No one really challenges it. Whereas Classic, we challenge everything. Literally everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll briefly just talk everyone through what the point of today is. So obviously, me, William Ruggs are going to talk about the phases. How we think sort of phase 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there going to be a 5th phase? How they're going to look. A little bit of an overview on how we think difficulty-wise in each phase is going to be, and then if there's anything else during that phase that gets added, which we're not just going to focus on. Well, Nax comes in phase 1, Uduar comes in phase 2. We're going to be a bit more broad than that, and talk about all the other little things that could potentially come in each phase, because we don't know. There's going to be a lot of speculation, but hopefully, you enjoy listening to us speculate. So, first of all, if we just have a quick discussion on how we think they're going to be, so what each of us, because we might all be different on this, but maybe by the end of the conversation, we'll all agree on, how it might be. So what if you was to break down firstly how many phases there's going to be and what will be in each phase? We'll start with you, Ruggs. Like, what do you think will be that case?
I think there will be 4.5. To me, it's the path is pretty straightforward. It's like you got your Nax OS UE, then you have your Uldawar, then you have your tier 9 with TOGC. So that's 3 already. And then it's like, okay, does Onyxia make the third patch a 3.5, or does it just does it come out with TOC? And then for ICC, like patch 4, does the Ruby Sanctum come out as a 4.5 or is it a 5? And so these two like half phases might like end up kind of muddying the waters a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm not sure. It could be 4 or 5, something like that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, WillE? How would you
I
lay
always
it out?
forget about Ruby Sanctum. Whenever people talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that exists, doesn't it? And I actually thought, 4 is going to be minimum, pretty no-brainer. But 4 isn't much, to be honest. As 4, well, it's only 3 real content drops once we're in the game, which if it's lasting 80 months or something, isn't a lot of updates really. So I think they'll try and spread things out a bit more and probably give 5 or so. But I sort of don't know where they're getting the extra ones from, unless it's a half phase or it's just a small amount of extra content. I don't know how much extra stuff they could package with the reworked Onyxia, for instance.
Well, right. the way I always think about it is, it's fine thinking about PvE, but you also then need to think about PvP. So we know for a fact there's going to be 4 seasons. there will be 4 PvP seasons, and we know we've got, whatever raids, So if we was to break those down, how I would see it would be phase 1 is obviously going to be Nax, Obsidian Sanctum, Malagos. I think everybody can agree on that. That's 100% what's coming in phase 1. They can't really do much else. Or can they? We'll talk about that soon. Phase 2, definitely Uldawar, which is going to be quite a long phase. I would see phase 1 being fairly short. I'm talking like a 3 to 4 month phase. Personally, I would say something like that. I think phase 2 would be Uldawar, which would be quite a long phase, so also leading to quite a long PvP season, saying like 5 or 6 months, which I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but actually 6 months in Classic is a bloody long phase, isn't it? Nowadays, we don't see many like that. So then when you get in towards TOC, I would say TOC will come out and then Onyxia all in the same PvP season. So a bit like what you said, Rugs, with it being a 3.5, I think it would be like phase 3, and then maybe phase 4 will be Onyxia on its own. But that will just, phase 3 and 4 will only be season 3, PvP season. And then I would say, obviously ICC would be phase 5. And then I don't know whether they called Ruby Sanctum seasons phase 6 or not, or they just said, it comes out once ICC gets boring, but whatever. I think I could see it in 6 actual phases, but phase 3 and 4 being one arena season, and then phase 5 and 6 being another. I think that's the sort of makes sense, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I always forget about is the PvPers, because I just don't PvP much, and keeping the arena seasons on schedule with the raid releases is very forgotten about on my end.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess in TBC there was a sort of one long season, which was similar to how it was back in the day, which was 3, which is where it came out in Black Temple, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And that stretched all the way till the new one. It's sort of lasted through ZG. I don't know if ZG, ZA. I don't know if there's a phase similar to like that into Wrath of the Lich King at all.
So what about season 1? Was it ZA and BT, or was it SSC, TK, and ZA?
Yes, it was. Launch was Karen, all that. Phase 2 was Tier 5. Phase 3, BT. Phase 4, ZA. Phase 5, where we are.
Yeah, so quite a lot. Yeah, so that would have been I don't know how many weeks it was, but it must have been the longest one out of them all. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so maybe there's something like that, but again, it's something that unfortunately also slips my mind quite a bit with the seasons, because I'm a bit of a PvE Andy, as they say.
Same. Oh, we all are.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, we've got no PvP representation here.
Then, Brilliant.
So phase 1. Let's break phase 1 down then. So, and we'll go from the most obvious things that we expect. So, as even talents, we know we're probably going to get. Well, we will get the level 80 talents in the pre-patch. But what are all the good things that people have got to look forward into, like in phase 1? And is there anything that could potentially be missed out of phase 1 that we want in phase 1? WillE, tell us about phase 1.
Okay, the one thing that I think, which I'm not sure whether it'll be there or not, but I think it will be, is the epic, the actual dual crafting specific epic gems. If you know what I mean, the Dragon Eye. Will they be available from phase 1, or will they come with trial? I think it's when they were put in originally. Because I imagine even if they're not in, and it's just the rare ones, it's still really good, right?
Yeah, well, as far as I remember, there was the 3.0. They were still in. There were still epic gems, but they was prismatic, so they would go in any slot, and they was a lot lower. They were like 24 or 27, something like that. I can't remember the 3.0 gems off the top of my head. But I thought they was in at launch, personally. I thought they was out at the start, no?
I think they were, but they buffed them in trial.
They got buffed.
Professions. But
most of them did. Stuff. Yeah, most professions got buffed, and the reason being is purely because of blacksmithing. Because blacksmithing, when they got the epic gems in 3.2, so in Trial of the Crusader, obviously they were just nuts, and everybody was blacksmithing. Yeah. And it's quite funny though, how it's going to be completely different this time round. Everybody back in the day was like dual crafting blacksmithing, engineering blacksmithing, and now it's like, who's going to go blacksmithing? How are we going to get any blacksmithing weapons?
True, yeah. It's just going to be belt buckle Spec, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So,
phase 1, there's going to be loads of stuff. There'll be a heirloom ring. If you're leveling fast, you can get that, Go find your mounts, go tame spirit beasts. You got the raid, you got the PvP season. Oh, they're delaying the raids, aren't they, till 1 week after?
Is that confirmed?
I don't know if
They
that's
said they were.
confirmed.
They said it. Yeah.
Have they?
Did they?
They haven't said anything opposite to that, so I guess at the moment, yes.
See, I could, because they didn't do it with TBC, did they? Because I've been wondering about this, whether they're going to delay it. Because in TBC, people was clearing, like, killing Grawl at level 65.
Yeah, I remember Progress did it, didn't they, on like day 2 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's a bit of a weird move. I'm not against it. I'm not against it whatsoever. Having a week where you can chill a little bit and not feel under pressure. But yeah,
a retail move, to be honest. That's what they do. When a new patch is out, they'll delay the Mythic week.
It definitely makes everything much more accessible and for like the average player. That way, everyone is jumping into Nax at the exact same time. But I do think the spectacle of and just like the specialness of watching a leveling race is kind of being missed with this.
Yeah, 100%. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, the servers will just be a fiesta, and you want your Conqueror of Naxxramas, don't you?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. But now, and let's face it, that's not going to be difficult. You know, by any guild, it's all it is going to come down to.
Who's found the most badges?
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to actually who walks in and who don't have issues, who don't have DCs, who don't have people not turning up, who don't have people stuck in queues. Because actually, if it opens at the same time, it's not going to be like Sunwell, you know, where it's only a small percentage of players, you know, that clear it in the first night. Nax is going to be everybody who walks in should really clear it on the first night.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure. There'll be an enormously high clear rate. Unless you're like, you know, we don't think we'll get the server first on that. Let's go get Magic Seeker instead, or whatever it's called from EOE.
Wouldn't it be so cool though if the raids were out with release, and that meant that all of this gear that you have from Sunwell means that much more? Because if we didn't have the raids out on release, then your gear doesn't matter because you're going to get to level 80, you're going to run heroic dungeons, and you have like 7 full days to get good gear for Nax. But if it was out immediately, like all this gear and all this effort that we're doing now means that much more, and your power of your character like matters for clearing and like leveling all the way to 80 like so much faster, and having good random pieces that you just happen to not replace as you go into Nax. I think that would be so sweet.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting what you said there, WillE. Sorry, just cut you off. It was quite interesting what you said there, because it could like KT is actually quite a long fight, but it's not a long fight because it's difficult. It's a long fight because you've got all the all the skeletons and everything that comes in at the start, for the first phase. So you saying about going and getting Magic Seeker, I could see people actually going to Saf, killing Saf, getting the key, skipping KT if it looks like, well, they're not going to get it. Let's say whoever's in second place is like, they're like, no, there's no chance we're going to server first KT now. Just killing Saf, sacrificing KT to go straight to Malagos. That's such a really good shout. Something that we probably will see.
Just have like some of the team ready to go or something.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, but you was going to say something else. I didn't want to forget.
No, I wasn't going to add anything. Or if I was, I forgot. So, unfortunate.
Cool. So, all right. So, what else have we got to look forward to in Phase 1? So, let's talk a bit about the raids. While we're on them, we might as well at least talk about them, because everyone hears about us saying, like, oh, yeah, Nax is going to be face roll. Everyone's going to smash through it and that. So, out of the 3 raids, obviously, Rugs, you've done a hell of a lot of raiding on private servers and everything. So, talk us through, is there any bosses in particular in Nax that you think might trip people up, that they need to think about? SAR 3 Drakes, is it going to be something where people progress on it, essentially? Like, will they go and do 1 Drake the first week, then get some gear to do 2, and then 3, or are we just going to go, no, everything's just going to fall over?
Yeah, well, firstly, the hardest boss in all of Phase 1 has to be, that first boss in VOA. I mean, talk about mechanics. That guy is... no, I'm just joking. That is like the easiest boss in the whole damn world. Like, you could literally... Oh my god, yeah, Frogger and Nax right after Patchwork.
Yeah. I may have walked into that once.
No, so I mean, everyone knows like Nax is a walk in the park. Everyone knows Nax is easy for sure it is. But in terms of like housekeeping things and things that you just want to make sure that like you have prepared correctly, so that way when you do walk into Nax, like you're not just like sleeping on the mechanics, because then you'll wipe. And some of those things might be like gluth. yes, you probably want to have someone kiting the ads. Usually you'll want 2 hunters setting up frost traps, maybe a mage helping out, your resto shaman dropping earthbind and having like 2 tanks on the boss because he does a mortal strike effect. These kind of things are things that you want to think about. So Gluth, despite it being extremely, extremely easy, I would, recommend that you make a plan to have someone kiting and have a taunt strategy in place for resetting stacks on Gluth. Other fights, I think Saffron is an interesting one because a pre-nerf version of Saffron might encourage people, especially week 1, week 2, to bring frost resist gear. But if we're getting a post-nerf version of Saffron, that shit is so easy, you could probably solo heal it. Maybe even zero heal it. Like, the frost damage on a pre-nerf or a post-nerf Saffron is crazy, crazy low. So, just making a plan to either say, if you're not bringing any frost resist gear to Saffron week 1, and we haven't had a chance to beta test it and like check and make sure like what kind of values we're going to be seeing, maybe you 6 heal it. Maybe. I mean, this is just precautionary tale. Like, just don't be underprepared for something like that, because then you're going to spend time wiping to Saffron when you shouldn't be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you mentioned OS 3D. OS 3D is pretty straightforward. Even if you do like the classic old school strategy where you kill all the dragons, it's still pretty manageable. It's a pretty weird fight. You might wipe a couple times, but I think week 1 we should still be able to Zerg it. And the Zerg strategy is pretty straightforward. It's not too complicated. You basically just have someone kite off one of the drakes, and you just Zerg down the boss, and it's no big deal.
Yeah,
pretty easy then. Yeah.
I do think that we'll be Zerging it week 1. I just we'll go with like 1 tank, 2 healers, and then just all pumper DPS, and it just melts. But I prefer doing it the old school way, if I'm honest. And if I make pugs on private servers, I always actually do it in a pug the old school way with killing the drakes. Because, alright, it makes it a little bit longer and you do actually have to take a proper comp, but it's not difficult. What about Malagos?
Turn your camera.
Yeah, exactly. Be able to see a massive firewall that's coming towards you. I mean, it's not even a subtle mechanic, is it? And people still get hit, and it's like I couldn't see the gap. But how? How could you not see that massive gap?
Turn on your monitor.
That'll be fun. That'll get us some really good memes. I'm sure Scotty's going to be featured on like a Gorthax video getting hit by Tsunami Wall week 1 or something.
Twice on the trot or something. It's bound to happen. Yeah, I'll be drinking again by then, so I'm sure some weird things will go down. WillE, Malagos. Got any fond memories of Malagos,
Okay, so look, you say Malagos, the first thing I think about is just vehicle combat, to be honest. And I feel like this is something Blizzard really, really pushed in Wrath, and people don't like vehicle combat that much overall. It's like you've got the quests in Burian Tundra, got Malagos, Oculus, Flame Leviathan, Strand of the Ancients, Winter Grasp. I'm missing a few here, but yeah, you get the point. There's a lot of vehicle combat. Yeah. I mean, I did it back in the day. I was casual at the start of the opening of Wrath of the Lich King on an Arcane Mage. Got my Champion of the Frozen Waste, of course. Very cool looking title. Always a fan of that. But yeah, it was pretty simple, really. You just kill the little wizards on their floaty discs, and you kill the boss afterwards. I haven't done it in years and years, mind you, though. So
I actually think it's
more of a fresh experience to me again.
Which is, yeah, I mean, that is good. I'm slightly jealous, actually, that it is going to be that fresh for you. But I think people will struggle. I genuinely do. I don't know about you, Ruggs. But yeah, no, with Malagos, I would say out of all of them, out of Malagos, Sarth, and every single boss in NAC, I think Malagos will be the one where you'll see the real casuals struggle. I'm not saying they're not going to be able to kill it. They'll kill it, but a few wipes, because people will just foul on the drakes at the end, and they won't stack the sparks to be able to get the boss low, so they've got a really long final phase. I do think it's the one that will slip them up.
I was looking at some stuff the other day as you're doing. In patch 3.2, your item level begins to scale with drakes, so we're going to be buffed.
Yes,
how it would have been originally. So it'll be easier, if anything.
Yeah,
but yeah, I did want to mention the difficulty, actually. You'll have seen the Wowhead interview with Brian Birmingham not so long ago, both of you, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And they said there really isn't grounds for doing a pre and post nerf raiding content in Wrath. And I was looking at stuff the other day, and there seems to be like I was looking for the patch notes, especially for Uldawar. The amount of nerfs everything underwent is enormous.
Uldawar, definitely.
Absolutely enormous. There's so many nerfs to that place. I don't know if it was just insanely overtuned when it first launched. I haven't played like a buffed Uldawar, or I didn't raid Uldawar week 1 or 2, whatever. But I'm like, I'll bring it up in a video soon. But yeah, there really does seem to be grounds to do a pre and post nerf, and it'd be a bit of a shame if we didn't see that coming off the back of the TBC where we are doing that, and I think it's been a good experience.
My God, WillE. I love you. Thank you so much for saying that. Seriously, it's like my biggest complaint recently is that the Blizzard devs don't understand that there is a pre and post nerf of everything. And it just sounded like in that interview that they didn't think that there was much, but there is. Like, look at the patch notes, look at history. Like, there's a lot of pre and post nerf.
Yeah, I mean, I just went through, the available fan pages, and there's more nerfs to Uldawar than any piece of content I've ever seen.
I think there'll be a lot that are pre and post fix. There's a lot of nerfs, 100%. Like they could do a pre and post nerf, but there is actually a lot in Uldawar. I even remember back in the day, week 1 being in Uldawar, and there was just a lot of things that just didn't work. And they was going through changes like every week. But actual, sort of health damage, reduction of the amount of people that get affected by certain mechanics and things like that 100% changed. And that was more.
I don't want buggy Uldawar, but
no,
there is a pre nerf and a post nerf.
It would be interesting to actually dig through it properly. Yeah, a lot. And there's even more changes when you look at like undocumented changes as well. Like if you look on WellWiki or Wellpedia, you can see public patch notes, but if you look at undocumented changes as well, where they weren't actually officially announced, but it's things that people found, when patches went out. There was even more in Uldawar and ICC. Not so much Nax and Tok, but yeah, there was a lot of undocumented changes as well. So yeah, it will be interesting. But Phase 1 overall, I think, there's, in terms of things that are added, outside of Nax, outside Uldawar, I'm getting excited, and that's what I'm waiting for. Outside of Nax, Sartharion, and Malagos, for me, there's so much content in Wrath, and this is what I'm most excited about. To the point where I'm getting ready now. I mean, for Christ's sake, yesterday I was streaming and I was doing all the quests in Elwyn Forest, because I'm working through all the zones to do Lawemaster and explore, before it goes out. So. It's that. They're like just achievements for anyone who's bothered about them. That alone adds so much content and so much reason for going back and doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And I think for me, as much as I say, Phase 1 could do with being buffed, because I do. I still am in that group where I think it should be tuned slightly. I'm not saying make it massively difficult, but just so it's at least a little bit challenging for the most casual of group. So they do need to at least think a little bit, because people will realise when they actually go into Nat how underwhelming it's going to be. You're going to be all excited. You've done all your pre-bis farm. You're in there on day 1, when it opens, and then you're in there for like an hour. Everything's dead. Yeah. All right, you got some purples, but it will be. I think it will be quite a sinking feeling after the first night in there. So a little bit of tuning. But as I say, outside of that, I think there's so much content that if Phase 1 did drag on a little bit, as long as you are interested in like PvP, because there'll be plenty of PvP achievements where even if you're not bothered about achievements, you're going to want to get the PvP achievements done anyway for the title, so you can flex when you're in battlegrounds and arenas and stuff. And then dual spec, which we've finally had confirmed is not going to have restrictions. But WillE, is it going to come in Phase 1?
It'll be in the pre-patch.
Yeah, that's bold. That's you heard it here first.
I don't see why not. I mean, there's class trainers in Azeroth, so yeah, just slam it in the pre-patch. Why not? I fully expect it to be in then.
I welcome it,
which would be nice. So you could get to have your tank set up and then your DPS set up when you're solo or whatever it may be. Yeah, I think it'll be there in pre-patch. So get your 1,000 golds ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much it'll cost you.
I've kind of been in the boat where I think they should have had dual spec in classic TBC this whole time, actually, just for like a quality of life thing, help the PvP community, all those things. But that's another story.
I was saying,
I remember back at the start of TBC, loads of people were pushing for it, but I think it's just a bit too big of a thing to bring forwards. They didn't want to do that. Would have been a good QL, especially for PvPers. Like, imagine if you play a rogue, like both of your specs that are good at doing PvE or PvE are useless at the other thing.
It would have kept heroics alive for a lot longer. It would have made arenas completely different, because people who are not willing to spend the gold to do both every week won't be. It would have been a good move, and I'd like to think if they'd done a classic season, like a season of Mastery TBC somewhere down the line, which I know there's no plans for at the moment, but if they did, I'd like to see it have dual spec. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I'm really looking forward to Wrath, and I love Wrath, and I've not particularly had that much fun in TBC, but I think with a few changes for a TBC season of Mastery, it could really work. And I think dual spec and achievements would be one of them, because there's a lot to do in TBC, but there's not much reason to do it. Because with no achievements, I don't know. I've always been like that. Even if we talk about the Xbox achievements, I would play a game and I would try and get 100% achievements on a game before I started playing the next one. So that's just, and there's a lot of people like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel the same way with TBC. It's like the start of the expansion was great. I had the most fun I've had in the MMO for a very, very long time. Just, it's people constantly online. You've got the achievements to do. You're just farming heroics with people. It's brilliant. And then, as you're sort of settling in, there just felt like there wasn't much to do. And it's kind of funny, really. I noticed the other day now, we've got the dailies out. Obviously, there's been a lot of dailies throughout the duration of TBC, but the ones we got at the moment on the Isle of Queld and Nass, they're really beneficial because they unlock the badge vendor and the gems eventually and stuff. And I've actually kind of been enjoying doing dailies, and I'm like, damn, imagine if you said this to a retail player.
I'm the same.
Dailies are pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I'm the same, which is bizarre, and I'm really glad you said it, because anybody who knows me, anybody who's played with me, knows how lazy I am when it comes to anything outside of raids. I'm not somebody who goes and does dailies. I'm not unless there's a reason. Like I say, achievements, they would get me doing dailies because I want to get all the achievements. But I wouldn't do them for gold, because there's other ways to get gold, isn't there? But I have been doing these dailies every single day, and actually it's been really refreshing actually to log on and more or less know that my first sort of 2 hours of the day are already allocated. I know I'm going to go and do all the dailies, then I'm going to do MGT heroic, and then from there, then I log off. But But it is
like, job done.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, guys.
I feel like the Isle, though, is definitely unique in this situation. Like, the Isle of Queld and Nass is just so special and has like such a sweet place in everyone's heart that doing those dailies doesn't feel like a chore. There's something like just genuinely like pure about how they set it up, that like it's just kind of chill, it's rewarding, it's fun, it's like involved, and you feel just engaged with like the war effort and everything. Like, I think they absolutely nailed it. Like, people love doing those dailies, and I don't think that's the case for all daily quest hubs throughout WoW's history.
Yeah. I mean, the subject, when dailies started, imagine if you missed dailies on Isle, that, I don't know, you'd start falling behind in gear level compared to everyone else.
Yeah,
I think that's
retail.
when it started getting problematic.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And wait till you introduce... Oh, there's one that you didn't mention, WillE. Trial of the Champion, the dailies for the Argent Crusade, where you mount up on the horse to do all the jousting and everything for the dailies.
Oh, yeah, more vehicles.
Yeah, more vehicles.
I remember going back to do that on retail at some point, because I was collecting pets, because I was collecting... I don't know why I was doing it, okay. I started collecting pets during Mr. Pandaria to make gold, and I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. So
it is fun, though.
Yeah, I did not like them dailies.
No, and no one's going to like them. They need to buff the rep that they give by about 150 to 200%, just so you don't have to do them too long.
Million different things you can buy from them as well.
Yeah.
Seen amount of whatever it is, justice points. Or so. I don't know what the tokens are called.
Seal of what are they? Argent seals, something like that.
I don't even know, man. No idea.
Something like that. It's not something I've done for years. Certainly not. I've not even done one of those dailies on a private server. I look at the area and I already feel sick.
Yeah, nope.
Either of you got anything else to add when it comes to phase 1? So we know we've spoke about the raids. Dual spec potentially going to be there. Is there anything big that we might have forgot that people have got to look forward to?
I don't think there's anything that we've missed per se, but what I will say just overall about phase 1 is it's a good phase 1. Don't feel turned off by the fact that the raids are easy. Imagine TBC phase 1 if it had Kara, Gruul, Mag plus SSC, but SSC was a really easy version of SSC. That's a lot of content right there, and that's kind of what we're getting with phase 1 and Wrath is that much raiding. It's going to be really easy and approachable, and the 70 to 80 is faster than from 60 to 70. So it's alt friendly, it's catch-up friendly. It's going to be a good time. The world will feel very alive, and it's going to be a good phase. Just don't sweat the fact that it's boring. Just speed run it, have a good time, get together with your crew, and just use it as hype for the next phase. Truthfully, because the next phase is one of the best phases in the entire game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. That's sort of how I saw TBC at the start. It's like Kara, it's just easy. There was Nightbane, which could be a little bit problematic, but it's like a prep phase. You level up everything you want to. You get your professions done. You go farm some gold. You cry at the price of Diamond Card greatness. Just standard stuff.
But the fact is, what Rugg said as well is, because didn't say it but alluded to it. The fact that you've got but 2 raid sizes. And you are going to be clearing both raid sizes every week for a good few weeks. So, you're going to have 2 raid nights, whereas in TBC, you would have only had 1. You'd have gone and cleared everything in one night, obviously, and that's it. At least now you'll have a night where you split up and you all do your 10-mans, Malagos, EOE, Malagos, Obsidian Sanctum, all of that. And then you'll have another night where you all get together and do 25-man. So you are actually, right off the bat, you've got 2 raid nights. Oh, we've lost WillE. Hello.
That's the button. Sorry.
I might have to turn you back up. It's all right. Oh, no, it's all right. So are we happy with phase 1?
Wait, is this?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Scotty, is there anything you would add to phase 1?
Anything?
I'm leaving.
Anything I would add, as in... Yeah, too much phase 1 talk. I've had enough of knacks, I'm gone. Anything I would add, as in physically add, or do you mean anything that we've forgot?
Physically add?
Yes, but that's a really good question. So shall we get to a viewer's question that they've sent in, and then I think we're all going to agree on what could physically be added. Let me just make sure that this all works properly. So if I get the iPad open, it's so cringy pretending that that's a real iPad on screen, but sorry, it's got to be done. So we I can't do it. It just inside I just start dying.
I'm surrounded by boomers.
We've had we put a community post out and on Twitter and everything, and we asked you guys who was going to be watching or planned on rewatching back, to send some questions in. So we've gone through them, and we're obviously going to answer a few of them. And what Ruggs has just asked there actually ties nicely into this question. So I'm going to have to lean forward because my eyes are really bad and I can't read it from here. Rook has asked, do you think they need to add more content to Tier 7 and Tier 9? So we'll focus on the Tier 7 here. So like previously, cut out dungeons or raids. Would Blizzard actually ever do something like this? AKA add new, never-before-seen content to the classic version of the game. You've asked me, but I'm going to pass the buck and I'm going to hand it straight over to WillE as he's the guest and talk us through what you think about that.
I mean, it's the only phase of the game when dungeons are super relevant. Well, in terms of gear as well as just badges. So I think it's fine as is. What Blizzard have shown so far is they sort of largely want to keep classic as is, and if they were going to change anything up significantly, they'll do it in a seasonal server. I think the amount of stuff to do in Tier 7 is fine. It's just that some of it might not be as challenging as you like. So, don't expect to be wiping on Tier 7 content forever or whatever it may be, but just sort of use it as a preparation phase.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'd add nothing?
Pretty much, yeah,
you'd just leave it as it is. What about you, Ruggs?
Well, in this fantasy world where we can add things, I do think something that could be really, really fun, especially in tier 7 and in tier 9, is the idea of potentially, now don't kill me for this, but potentially adding something like a Mythic Plus. I think Wrath is like such a good expansion to, introduce a Mythic Plus situation to the environment. I think it's inviting for it. I think it encourages people to get back in there and do more dungeons. And the class balance in Wrath is really favorable for a bunch of classes to have a good time in dungeons. There's a ton of variety there, and I think it could be a really, really cool thing. Do I think that they'll do it? Absolutely not. I mean, absolutely not. But that would be amazing.
Yeah, I guess in a fantasy world, like in tier 7, I think the amount of content's fine. By tier 9, like you're doing dungeons for badges now and again. But to have them be more relevant and still get rewards from them could be nice. And it would, you'd explore new stuff. What's good in the 5-man? Maybe some of these trinkets or items from dungeons are actually insane if you power them up in item level.
Yeah. So before everybody comments in the video or in chat now, telling me to go back to retail or go play retail, because that seems like a really common reply. Whenever you say anything about slight changes that deviate from the norm, it's like go and play retail, which I just want to put out there is a ridiculous thing to say as well. So if you do say that, you should probably reevaluate your life decisions, because retail and making sensible changes to Wrath of the Lich King are two completely different things. With that out of the way...
Ian said that, right?
yeah.
Ian Hatzacostas said
that. Crazy talk.
Oh, yeah.
The same thing.
But now I've got that out there, so now I've put that out there, I would like to see, actually, time walking raids. So I'm talking when there's sort of bits of lulls in content. So, by the end of Nax, when everybody's got all their gear and stuff, having a week. I'm not talking about it being there all the time, more like an event that will be on the calendar, so they just put a week's worth of where you can actually go back and do a level 80 Black Temple or a level 80 Karazhan even. If they didn't want to go bonkers and start tuning, making massive changes to 25-man raids, then you just got Nax, Kara, Zolgara, Zolaman, the smaller raid sizes where, once per phase, there'll be a week or maybe 2 weeks where you can actually go and get the equivalent gear to what you would get if you was running current content and badges. That's the one thing I'd like to see, just for a bit more variety. That's it. And I don't think that's mental, but what do you think about that?
The only problem with time walking I've ever had, and if it were in the game, is I kind of don't want the gear from time walking to ever be better than the current raid.
Oh, I agree. Totally. Yeah, it should be more for fun.
Imagine if it gave loads of badges or something.
Yeah, if it was just that. Yeah, exactly. If it was literally just badges, nothing else, then yeah, I'd be fine with that. So it would be more just for fun.
Yeah, or if it's like Vault of Archivon, where you get tier pieces and PvP pieces, maybe, from the last boss.
Yeah,
just a pinata of badges, I think I'm cool with. I don't have to see any items at all. Even I wouldn't even include tier PvP stuff, but because badges buys you that anyway.
Yeah, it does. That's true.
And it would be interesting, wouldn't it? Can you imagine if they did do it and then you add your time walking ZA? Let's say they done a time walking ZA in tier 9 when it was a bit of a slow phase, and they had it open for 4 weeks, and it's actually now one final opportunity to be able to get the bear mount achievement. That would be interesting for people who missed it during TBC. But yeah, I mean that's what I would add. I actually love Ruggs' idea of mythic. When he says mythic plus, I don't mean pushing keys. I would like you to basically, if they picked a handful of Deb Mines, I don't know, Upper Blackrock Spire, Strat, just a handful of dungeons, and then just tuned them for level 80 as mythic dungeons. Yeah, I like mythic plus, and pushing keys. And I get how that's fun, but I'd be cool with just like I said, it's time walking, isn't it? I like that. I'd like to see Blizzard do it more, where they actually keep old content relevant in one way, shape, or form. Because it's a lost art, and they are some of the things from vanilla and some of the things from TBC are just so good they're so good that it's quite sad to think that we're never going to do it again.
Yeah, I think dungeons have always been a great bit of content. Smaller, good when you start, but they fall off so fast, and I mean, there's the tabards and stuff and badges, but it wasn't really till MOP with challenge modes where they switched it up.
Yeah, and kept their relevance. And that's sort of, I'd be cool with that. I like challenge modes, where if it was all the reward was something cosmetic or something, So again, you're not doing it for the loot; it's just for fun. And I think people would eat it up. Even people now who would be negative about it and go, "No, we don't want that. That's not Wrath of the Lich King." I think if the content was put in front of them, they'd probably enjoy it.
Be like, "Ooh, what's this?" Or if you had time trial mode, like all of the Borean Tundra, Howling Fjord dungeons put together, all the Utgard dungeons. There's like one mega dungeon. When you defeat the last boss, you get teleported to the next dungeon, and you have to beat all of them in a certain time frame.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you get like a chest.
I
or
like
something.
that.
Rush. Yeah, and then you have I don't know how well you could join all the dungeons together. So you've got the 2 in Caldera, you've got the 3 at the end of the expansion. It's like Dungeon Rush or something. And you don't even buff them, you just literally pull everything and just spam AoE. I mean, it sounds kind of fun. You see big numbers, that's usually fun.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that. I like that, WillE.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay, so that's phase 1. So let's go on to phase 2, which I think is probably the phase that people are be most excited about, because it doesn't matter whether you've played Wrath private servers or whether you just remember Wrath, from playing it back in the day, or you've never played it. I think at some point you would have heard, that Uldawar is just one of the best raids that's ever been released. And that is my feelings towards it. I think it is one of the best raids. I think it's got very wildly different fights, from fight to fight. Nothing feels the same. And the introduction of hard modes is actually something that I was quite sad to see go. The fact that it was just that one tier of content. They could have done so much more with that, and I think it was so much better than actually just setting the difficulty to heroic. Yeah, I find that very boring. But go on, Rugs. You've been nodding away, and I know you love Uldawar. So talk about phase 2.
Right. So phase 2 is Uldawar. It's a new PvP season, and it's the next boss available in VOA. But before I get distracted with my love for Uldawar, I do want to just talk briefly about what you just said about the hard modes. And God, I couldn't agree with you more, Scotty. I remember one day I sat down with my wife. We were grabbing dinner at a Mexican restaurant, and I think I talked to her for a full hour about how awesome it is that hard modes work the way that they do, and that the rest of WoW doesn't do it like that. And
did she leave? Did she get up and leave? No. She actually stayed for the meal. That's weird. Mine would have left.
I mean, seriously, like the devs were experimenting. They did the hard modes in Uldawar. They thought, okay, that works great. Let's do a similar thing with TOC. And they added, heroic versions, and that's where you get the 4 raid lockouts. And then they thought, okay, that didn't really work just right. Let's do it in ICC, but make it so that they share IDs. And that was decent. And then they kind of ran with that model for the rest of, and just kind of adjusted it slightly. Whereas the hard modes, what got completely left in the dust in Uldawar, when they're awesome. It's so pure. It's so genius and just great. Every encounter is done differently for that hard mode. I think about Hodier's the speed kill. Thorum, you got to clear through the gauntlet fast enough. Freya, you add like 50 more mechanics because you're leaving up 3 extra things. And then Firefighter. Oh my god, Firefighter's insane. Vezax is different. It's not a speed kill. It's the opposite of a speed kill. And it's so awesome, man. It's so awesome. All the hard modes are so well thought out and well done that it's almost like Blizzard shot themselves in the foot creatively when they decided to not do hard modes anymore. But yes, Uldawar. Sorry.
Just before you carry on, WillE, can I just ask you a question, mate? Yeah. Do you think Ruggs likes hard modes?
I mean, if he could talk to his wife for an hour straight about them, then I'm going to say maybe.
Yeah.
It might be on something.
Sorry, go on, carry on, Ruggs. I had you full screen, and I was just watching the excitement ooze out of your face.
Hard mode enjoyer for sure.
Yeah. Go on, tell us about Uldawar then. Like, in general, yeah, because I think it's going to be a really interesting raid for many, many different kinds of raiders. And I think that's what people really need to get their head around, because we've spoke about it on here before, like when it comes to speed running. Well, what's the criteria for speed running Uldawar? Does that include all hard mode kills? kills? Can you skip some if they're a bit too difficult? Like, what is Algalon included in that full speed run, which you would think it probably is? And then some hard modes. I would say for the average sort of dad gamer guild sort of thing, I'd say not completely off the table, but I think you're going to need to farm it for many weeks to get a lot of gear in the guild to be able to make some of those hard modes achievable. But yeah, sorry, go on, carry on, Rod.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're exactly right. The difficulty is great. You say it takes a few weeks to farm out gear for them to get it. I think it's some of it's gear, but also some of it's just raid time. Like genuinely putting in the hard work, the sweat, the hours to progress it. It takes time. I think Sunwell is a really, really good experience for everyone because I think Sunwell difficulty-wise is probably really similar to Uldawar, except Uldawar has more than double the amount of bosses that Sunwell does. So it's just going to take hours for people to progress. It will take time. You need to have 3 raid days if you're in a more like dad guild. Like you need those 3 raid days to like make sure you're spending the time like getting through the content. Like it will take time. It's not going to fall over. It's going to be similar to Sunwell. Sure, like some people will just like fucking knock it out of the park, of course, but Uldawar is great and I just love the way that Uldawar is set up. There's you got your 4 bosses at the beginning. Okay, I hate Flame of Leviathan. Again, vehicle boss. Okay, yeah, make me do something that isn't the character that I spent, days leveling up and gearing and playing. Like I'm gonna go jump in a vehicle now. Okay, that boss sucks. Other than that, you got Razor Scale Ignis. Razor Scale is easy peasy, whatever. Walk in the park. Ignis is a great fight, phenomenal fight. XT, it's like the perfect DPS check fight. He is literally like the gatekeeper to the rest of the bosses, and that hard mode is a DPS check. It's so great. It's like the patchwork fight of Uldawar is XT. And if that's like your first DPS check, I love that he's gatekeeping the rest of the raid. Then you got, from there, you can go wherever. You can go to Iron Council. If you have the key, you can go to Algalon. You can go through the next gatekeeper of Kolagarn. And it's a great raid, man. I cannot say enough about it. I'm not going to go anywhere with this subject, man. I'm just going to keep talking about how much I love Uldawar. WillE, please say something.
I mean, to be honest, I can't wait to get to it because I never properly raided it back in the day, and I never did any of the hard mode, so it's going to be a fresh experience for me. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
The thing is, what you're going to do, WillE, if I'm honest, and I think this is going to be the same for everyone, and I'd imagine, just based off what Rug said, he's probably going to agree, is you'll very quickly tire of the first few bosses of the instance. They're good when you're doing them like for the first month or whatever. But for me, the raid doesn't start until Kolagarn's dead. And I know that's a weird thing to say because that's like 5 bosses. But once you get past Kolagarn, then it's the keepers. That's Freya, Mimiron, Thorim, Hodir. Then you've got Vezax. Yeah, it's when for me that's when the raid starts. Yeah, and it can take the most. Let's say just an average guild. You just average all your friends. You all raid together. You've been raiding together for a few years. It could take you the majority of your normal 3-hour raid night to get to the point where I'm saying the raid starts. If you have the odd wipe on Iron Council, if you're doing hard mode, Iron Council hard mode. Well, that's the fantastic thing about Iron Council. There's easy, medium, and hard. There's 3 difficulties for that one fight, and to go on even further than what Ruggs was saying, where he was saying about, the fact that, hard mode, it completely changes it up, whether you're doing a speed kill, whether you're doing whatever else. Remember, there's actually a 3rd difficulty for every single boss, near enough every single boss. And it's not a difficulty, but the achievement that's now tied to that boss, which will actually require you to kill that boss in a completely different way to hard mode or normal mode. So, there's just so much variety for one raid. And you're all going to want to get your Ironbound Protodrake. Or rusted Protodrake, depending on what difficulty you play, because they look fantastic. It's the perfect raid. It really is.
You can't extend raids in Wrath, can you?
You can, yeah.
You can. Oh,
well, it did come in later on, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that because I don't remember.
But you can, but you're probably not going to want to. I've been talking a lot about extending IDs recently. I think the most of the place you'll see people extending IDs is to herb farm. Extending IDs where everything's cleared and then going and herbing and stuff like that, where they respawn in dungeons.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, you just extend on one character and then go and herb farm. But yeah, I mean, people used to do it in retail, but that was for like mythic bosses, where people, even guilds which are cutting edge capable, would pull hundreds of times.
Yeah. I mean, you might
choose to extend because you're like really close to a kill, but I don't know if things will be that level of difficult.
I think Yog 0, maybe once you've got the ID, everything's cleared, you're there. I don't know. You might choose to sacrifice the rest of the bosses. I'd probably see guilds maybe doing it every now and again once they're full bis as well, and all they're bothered about is getting the mount from Yog, getting Mim's head. That would be possible, and you'd probably be doing it tier 9 onwards. This is all coming off the top of my head. Like you've spurred me on. I've not actually thought about doing it like this, but until now. But if you're doing tier 9, you're doing ICC, then 1 week doing a full clear, or 1 night doing a full clear up to Yog 0, and then just saving the lockout for when you've got time to go back. That could be something we see happening. While you're there, I'm guessing you'd just kill it.
Go on.
No, go on, mate. You're right.
I know there was a skip to Saf and KT later on.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a skip in Uldawar to later bosses?
No.
No, okay. Because they've done it in BT, and that's never been put in retail. Like, people are asking for that in retail because they want to go farm their glaives. So maybe that'll happen,
Yeah, I certainly never remember it being a thing. I mean, you do... Well, when I say skips, you get portals, don't you, all over the place. So, you
imagine if you walked in, it's like, teleport straight to
Yog's room.
Kind of thing.
Right, I guess
they could do
there's
that.
Potential that what they could do, I don't know if they'll do that, though, because the portals, that's literally letting you zone in and then just port straight to the boss that you want to fight. I don't think they'll ever do that. That's kind of too much, but there's potential because... If you have the key to Algalon, you basically get to skip like right to Algalon after you kill XT, which is a pretty substantial skip rather than clearing all the raid. And then another potential skip is typically you have to kill all the keepers before you can get to Vezax, because he has that, role-playing gate that opens up.
Yeah.
There's potential that they could remove the requirement to kill all the keepers before you can get to Vezax. But I don't think they'll ever add the portal stuff.
Because at the moment it's in TBC you kill Shade of Akama and then you can go straight to Mother.
Right.
So they might just, portal straight to, the path split between Colagon and Council and so on.
Who knows? It's an interesting one. I mean, because you've got, like Ruggs said, there's just so many places where it's all tied together. Like the door opening behind XT, and then Colagon is the bridge. When you kill Colagon, he collapses and forms the bridge. So I don't know. As I say, it's an interesting one. It definitely never happened in the past, but who knows?
What's y'all's favorite boss in all of Uldawar?
I'll let WillE go first. He's just because I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't really done it. I need to do it. As I say, I never. I don't know why, but I never did it back in the day. I played tier 7, and then I just decided to go AFK for a really good raid, apparently, because I remember playing ICC. And a trial, but I don't know why I didn't play Uldawar much. And again, I haven't been on private servers so much, so I'm kind of at this point. I'm like, I'll wait, see how it is.
It's a difficult one for me.
Forward.
It really is a difficult one. I really, really like Yog. I love the fight, even without being +0, without being alone in the dark. Just the fight as in general, I really like. Not a fan of the initial part with Sarah, where you're, obviously having to blow the ads up on top of her. But from there on out, I enjoy the fight. As a feral DPS, I love XT, just because you just get to stand there and nuke. I'd probably I love Mimiron as well. It's a really hard one. I struggle ranking them. I'd probably say Mimiron number 1, Yog number 2. Then I'd probably put Thorim next. I really like the Thorim fight.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think it's it's the first of its kind. Where you're like splitting the raid up in 2, and you've both got 2 completely different jobs in 2 completely different places. The mechanics that both groups are dealing with are completely different. The tunnel team, you can't go, have you done the tunnel? Oh, you'll be fine in the arena, because what's going on in the arena is completely different to the tunnel. I find the mechanics of it really interesting. I
that
love
one's
them.
always fun. Like first time doing Thorum, and you have raid comms happening both in different areas, and they're talking over each other. That's always a blast.
Yeah, where they're like, the tunnel team are going, right, move to the left, and everyone in the arena's like, moving to the left. It's like, why are you moving? We wasn't talking to you.
It
would be
some
go on.
split bosses. Yeah, the split bosses are always a bit functional. Like, oh no, the other side's wiped. Okay. Run into the fire.
Yeah, and that happens. That happens. Like if the tunnel team wipe, everyone just stops healing in the arena. Vice versa. It would be easier for me to say what bosses I don't like, which would be Flame Leviathan. And I'm not a massive fan of Colagon. In fact, I hate Colagon with passion. I probably, if I had to do one boss right now, I would rather get in the vehicles and do Flame Leviathan than do Colagon. So it's those two. I love Ignis. I love Ignis as a fight. Because I like getting chucked up in his little pot.
I've been thinking about it. Which bosses have loads of ads? I'm playing a demo lock so I can just blow them up. Freya? Does Freya have loads of ads?
Freya does, for
sure. Demo. Yeah,
yeah Freya's an ad fight.
Yeah.
The Thorim, I mean, Thorim is technically, there's a lot of ads in the arena, more in the arena, but again, there shouldn't really be. If there's loads of ads in the arena, you're probably struggling, but there is things to do AoE.
There's some ads on the cat lady.
Razor Scale. Yeah, ads on Crazy Cat Lady, yeah, Aurea, Razor Scale. There's a lot of fights with ads. They're normally quite small ads that blow up really, really quick, though. Prolonged cleave is not really much of a thing in Uldawar.
Yeah. I was thinking about the to go back around to the whole idea of hard mode and hard mode difficulty as well. I was looking at some articles from Ian back in the day when he was working on the game about why they chose to move away from doing hard mode and decide to do heroic mode. And one of the things they said about them is they're not intuitive and they thought they'd become repetitive. Those are the two reasons they gave why they decided to move away from them. As in, on XT, you just have to sort of, if you don't want to do the hard mode, you just don't do anything. You just sort of wait, don't you?
Yeah, you don't kill the heart. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really ridiculous comment that I'm going to get flamed for. I actually think normal mode's harder than hard mode on XT. Because when you activate hard mode, you've got no ads to worry about. I mean, you've got ads to worry about on normal. So, if you was to consider like a reasonable geared group, it's just easier just to stand there and nuke than it is to have to worry about running out and killing ads when it's normal. But, again, I appreciate it's a bit of a strange comment to make, and it's very hard to not activate hard mode because the heart dies so ridiculously quick. Yeah, you have to physically stop.
Yeah.
That's just what he said from back in the day. But I wonder if they did carry on doing hard mode, like how many iterations of activating something being more difficult could they come up with?
Yeah. I suppose you are quite limited, aren't you, then?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only concern I'd have had for it long term. But I think at least what they did here and what they tried, it deserved more than one raid of it, I think.
I agree. It's almost an impossible task creatively, but it's sad that we only got Uldawar for it.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, it's really funny you say that. So they said back in the day that it wasn't intuitive enough, and obviously the challenges around it, and now they're thinking about doing it for Trial of the Crusader. Have you read that? Yeah, they're actually said that they're going to take inspiration, or they're trying to take inspiration from Uldawar hard modes and have it so it's triggerable to activate heroic mode in Trial of the Crusader. So there's only 10 and 25. So they're sort of going back on their old philosophies, which is good. It shows that they're open to change.
Yeah, imagine Beasts of Northrend, but you got all three at once or something, and kill order like
yo, that would be wild.
That would be.
I mean, you'd have to tone them down a little bit, otherwise it'd be insane. But especially for an early boss, but there's something like that, for instance.
Yeah, or you have to. There's a lot of triggers.
Like you couldn't stack them. Like you straight up couldn't stack them. Like if the ads get too close, they just delete your tank. So you're forced to play differently. I don't know.
I don't know if they're going to go that. I don't think they're going to go as far as changing actual mechanics, and that's why with that, when they said that they was going to do it as triggerable like hard modes in Uldawar, I straight away was like, you're not going to be able to do it because there's just not enough. I sat and thought about every single boss in TOC and was like, right, okay, So let's say, Beast of Northrend. That I fell at the first hurdle, actually, because I was like, how do you trigger hard mode? All you've got is, like what you get one boss at a time. What do you do to trigger hard mode? With Jaraxxus, you could do something where, I don't know, you don't kill the portal and you have to let 2 ads spawn and then it triggers heroic. Or, there's little things you could do on other fights. But they're not designed for that. They weren't designed with hard mode in mind. So, all they're going to end up doing is just having it so you toggle on heroic or you toggle on normal. That's not going to change.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's even like thematic things you could do. Like, imagine Beast of Northrend, you talk to the guy at the start and the crowd starts throwing meat at you and it calls the bosses in early. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, you go near one in.
Yeah.
That would be fun though, wouldn't it? Yeah, if you've got meat thrown on you.
40% health. One gets to 40% health, another one spawns. So at least there's some crossover between them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get anything quite that fun, but I mean...
Doubt it. I think we'll just get heroic and they'll share lockouts like ICC.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else on Phase 2? I mean, outside of thinking, sort of outside of raids, it's a bit difficult to talk about, changes that will come into phases regarding professions and things like that, because we just don't know, do we? We don't know whether we're going to have the big JC gems. We know, obviously, the epic gems still shouldn't be in Phase 2, should only be the rare gems still. Other than that, there's not a great deal. It is just a fantastic raid that comes in Phase 2. And obviously, it would introduce Season 2 for Arena.
That too, yeah.
I guess one thing we can throw out is there's a new type of badge and a new badge vendor, just like with every phase.
Yeah.
That's it.
True.
All right. So again, what we'll do, we'll go back to the question. So we have got a question around sort of loosely tied into Phase 2, which was on your Twitter, WillE. So biggest question for me right now is, will they be extending Uldawar so there's actually proper time to progress through normal and the hard modes? Tier 9 came out way too quickly. So this is obviously talking historic, and this was Chris Collins. Thoughts?
I'm just going to look at the dates quick. If you just talk about it, I want to see how long it lasted.
Yeah,
I'll talk about it while you pull up the dates.
Yeah, go on, Ruggs. I mean, what do you think?
So, I hope that Uldawar is long. I hope that we get plenty of time to run it. I don't want to go into Tier 9 still missing a certain trinket for one of my raiders or myself. I want to spend a lot of time in Uldawar. I want to enjoy the hell out of it. I want to make sure I've got at least 2, maybe even 3 characters fully, completely just having a blast in Uldawar. I'm with you. I hope they extend it. But I also don't think that extending it is going to really scratch that itch that this comment is coming from, that this question is coming from. I think this is stemming from an issue of thinking that once T9 comes out, that Uldawar is just never run again. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Uldawar will continue to be ran even in the next phase. And I think it's because of a couple of reasons. One, you get Valinir out of Uldawar. There's going to be healers in your raids, in your guilds, who will be begging you, dragging you back into Uldawar, or who will be hosting their own pug runs of Uldawar, just reserving their Valinir shards. And there's going to be GDKPs running Uldawar, because I think Uldawar is probably not the best raid, but a really good raid for GDKPs. And there will still be a lively community running Uldawar even during Tier 9. Don't think that it's just going to go straight to the back burner. In a lot of ways it will, but it won't completely.
Well, people are going to do GDKPs for the mount, for Mim's head still anyway. So, yeah, and like you say, and Valinir as well. I mean, how do you handle shards? That'd be an interesting one. In a GDKP with shards that are healers bidding per shard, or is someone pre-buying all of them, or there's a lot to think about around that, obviously. But how long was it out for, WillE, originally?
3.5 months. So he's right.
That's very short.
So it came out April 14th, 2009, and TOC was August 4th, 2009. So April, May to June to July, and then about half a month. So yeah. I think that's 3.5. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Hang on, what did you say came out in April? So May, June, July,
April
August.
14th.
So if we said, and then TOC was August, was it?
August 4th.
Yeah, so 4 months tops. We say that. That's about right. 4 months tops.
About 3.5, 4 months. Yeah, not the longest really.
That's not long at all for the size of it.
Yeah.
What would be your sweet spot, WillE? Where, like, how long would you want it? What would be a good phase 2?
I mean, it's a funny thing about it. Like, it's a good raid, and everyone's looking forward to it. But it's kind of the raid in the arena season, and that's it, right?
Yeah. That is pretty much it.
But a good 5 months or so, I reckon.
I feel like that's good too.
I don't think you want to go too far beyond that.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely like it can drag for sure. If it goes too long, it could certainly drag. But I think that might be all right.
Yeah, I've been saying 5-6 months. I've gone as far as saying 6. But I do really like Uldawar. I personally would happily do Uldawar for 6 months. But I think for the whole player base, I think 5 months probably is about right. And that will be a really, really good length arena season.
I'm looking at this. Dual Spec wasn't introduced to Uldawar. Can you imagine having to reglyph all the time? What a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like when you change the spec and you have to reglyph. I swear that's one of the big reasons why they did it. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, there's no way they'll leave us waiting to Uldawar. Can you imagine? But yeah, it's a scary thought. We might as well touch on a couple of these other questions while we got them on the screen anyway. So, hey there, WillE. This is from Clems. I was wondering to myself if the heirloom book for cold weather flying would be in the game at launch or when it came out patch-wise. It would certainly make herbing mining very convenient. I can already see all of the 70 druid ults flying around. Thanks. So just to put a little bit of info behind that. So obviously cold weather flying is actually introduced at launch, but then 3.2 is when the heirloom book became available. So you could buy it on a level 80 and send it to your ults. So that's when it became heirloom-wise. So that would have been top.
Right, 3.2. Yep. I don't think it'll be out from launch just because they'll want you to run around on your character and sort of play the game properly for however long it'll be. But I could see it being earlier than trial, though, like in Uldawar, perhaps. When they bring it out. I don't think it'll be there at launch, if I had to guess.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I would feel about it coming out in Uldawar. So yeah, I agree with you. I could see it coming in phase 2. So certainly earlier than phase 3. But me personally, I would have it in at launch. The only reason I have it in at launch is because you've already done it. You've already done all the manual walking about and all of that. So you've still got to have a level 80 at the end of the day to be able to buy it. And phase 1 will be for most people that are like not bothered about achievements, not bothered about PvP. It's the perfect ult leveling phase, really, getting all your ults set up ready for Uldawar.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had to be level 80 to buy it. That changed that, actually. Because I thought, if it was available from phase 1, you just beeline Dalaran, buy it, and then you're flying straight away at level 70.
Oh, no, you still need
to buy it. And okay, okay, I don't really mind it from phase 1 then.
Yeah, what do you think, Rugs? More like, do you think it would be there at phase 1?
Man, I don't have any clue. I knew you would know what patch it came out in, though. I think I'm with you, though. I seriously agree 100% with you, Scotty. I think just put it out in phase 1. I don't overthink something like this. It's so small. Just give it to us. Not a big deal. Don't time gate something random like that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because this actually came out at the same time as this. I'm sure it was 3.2. Could have been 3.3 actually, but I'm fairly sure it's 3.2. The Kalawak Derby. What I'm going on to now. So the fishing tournament. Now that was late, and I'm fairly sure that was 3.2 as well. But the heirloom ring. You wouldn't be able to get the heirloom ring before the Kalawak Derby. So that's another thing which is really convenient for helping you to level ults. Have you just had a look, WillE? Was it 3.2?
3.3.
Oh, it's 3.3, so it was even later. So that's going to be a long waiting to the final phase to be able to get something for an ult that you're going to make the most use of in phase 1. Well, let's say phase 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
That was just off topic.
I kind of like. So this is completely off the topic of what we're going on, but. And if you guys know Warlords of Draenor, great expansion, everyone loved it. They actually did introduce some pretty good quality of life stuff, like a tab for heirlooms. so you don't have to be sending them between characters. Like there's a pet tab at the moment. You had that for heirlooms. You just log in, you create heirlooms, and they appear in your bag.
Yeah.
Instead of messing about sending them back and forth. But yeah.
I've been a big fan of that. I'm a big advocate for putting in at the heirloom tab into Wrath because until people now will be like, no, we don't want it. But honestly, once you actually start getting heirlooms and you realise what an absolute pain they are to even remember, well, if you're like me, if you're leveling your ult and then you have a few beers that night and forget that you was even leveling your ult, which trust me, that happens regularly.
Like, where are the looms gone? You're like logging all your characters. You're like, they're here somewhere. I know they are.
And you'll buy them again.
It's not game breaking. That's not a game breaking request at all. And Blizzard is already doing thing that if it's from the modern game and it's not game breaking and it's simple, like they are already showing that they will give that to us. So I think there's a good chance that we actually get that, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a toy box as well in WoD that was introduced because the moment toys just, I mean, they're fun, but they kind of take up your whole bag. Like it's weird. They did a tab for your mounts and companion pets, but then they didn't do for heirlooms and toys until WoD. People love collecting stuff nowadays.
Yeah, and they're just not.
Chuck them in as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, I'm the same. It's not a big deal. It's great getting bag space back. You know, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There is one more question on here. So before we move on to phase 3, what we think is going to be phase 3, which is going to be TOC. So this is from Miguel again on your Twitter, WillE. So hi, I'm mainly PvP. Would like to know how they will manage Honor and Arena season points earning system. Yeah. So will it be similar to season 1? Or more similar to season 4, or a middle ground like season 3. So we've already openly said none of us 3 are big time PvPers. So we're going to be the worst people to answer it. But still, let's have a crack.
The only thing I know about PvP in Wrath that they're changing is your rating personal instead of team.
Yeah. So I'll just take over because I spoke about this earlier anyway, so I might as well just I'll put it out there. So what I think what Miguel is getting at here is season 4 at the moment for those who don't PvP, and this should be sort of a telltale sign that we're actually going to get the pre-patch quite early. Is that you're getting practically double the arena points as you would have been getting last season or the season before. Or the season before that. So it's very quick to get gear. You know, people are getting like 1,000 arena points, you know, with a very average rating team, like 3's team, for example. And it quite literally works out to double. I've got all the numbers. I've got all the numbers from a PvP Discord where everybody's been sharing exactly how many points they get in each season. But I have a feeling that that's purely based around an accelerated season. You know, they know the pre-patch is only going to be a couple of months away or a few months away. So they're making sure that everybody can get all the PvP gear that they want and essentially all actually be able to have really fair matches for the last month or 2 months of the arena season in full BIS PvP gear. So, I mean, I would say that having such accelerated arena point gain in Wrath is probably not a good idea, but maybe just for phase 1, potentially.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. We'll see. I
mean,
they'll say what they'll be doing, I'd imagine, before the beta.
They didn't say about this, though, did they? I don't think. Because I'd not read it anywhere. Like, literally, I've not even seen anybody talk about it outside of on PvP Discords and DMs that I've got about it. Has there actually been a public, blue post from Blizzard saying we've doubled the arena points that you're getting? There may have been, and I've missed it.
Off the top of my head, I feel like there would have been, but I can't remember it right now. Maybe it was ages ago, and they said moving forwards we're going to be doubling them or something, but I don't remember. They've always been kind of weird with the PvP stuff.
Yeah. So, Bruggs, what was you going to say?
I don't know if you had already mentioned it, but I know that Blizzard has already said that when it comes to the philosophy of how arena points are earned in terms of like the rate that you gain, is they always tried to match it with how fast you're getting gear in PvE. And so they said that they specifically increased the rates in TBC Classic because we were clearing the raids like day of. But back in the day, we weren't clearing all of Black Temple immediately on the first day. It was taking us time. And so they wanted to match the way that like how fast you're getting gear in PvP the same way like how fast you're getting gear in PvE. So I'd imagine that we're going to have something a little more consistent with that nature, since Blizzard is already in that mindset moving forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Cool. All right. Yeah. So should we? That's all the questions anyway. Well, there's another one that I've got lined up, but let's have a around the table about Phase 3 first. So Phase 3, we're thinking is going to be Trial of the Crusader now, right. With Arena Season 3, with Onyxia coming shortly after. If we get Onyxia, which is another interesting thought, because Onyxia was actually... It weren't properly part of Wrath content. I know it is on private servers and that, but it was actually it was an anniversary boss. You know, they implemented it as part of, what would it have been, the 5-year anniversary or something like that? I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, it was.
But that's what it was added for. It wasn't added for any other reason. It's not really something that I would consider as part of the content cycle. I'm assuming we're going to get it because it's in the game files. You know, they've got everything that they need for it. But you know, technically, if it was left out, it would be understandable because it's no longer the 5th anniversary. Why are we getting a 5th anniversary boss?
Yeah. Scotty, do you think you could tell us how difficult is Onyxia actually in Wrath?
How difficult it is? I actually think it's a bit of a nightmare for pugs. I think it's one of those where in a normal guild, in a normal group with normal people who can use their eyes and their hands in tandem, all at the same time. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Exactly. It's one of those. It's actually not difficult, but I was trying to kill it for about 10 hours straight on stream. Not all in the same group, literally bouncing from pug to pug to pug on my paladin. And I logged off after 10 hours without actually killing it. That was on the day that it launched, because I was just getting in groups where literally the entire raid, well, minus me, would get hit by, flame breath. It was ridiculous stuff. It is it's going to be one of those annoying fights to pug with people who didn't do Onyxia during vanilla, because it's not really changed. There's practically no difference.
Yeah, that'll be the good old one-shot mechanics. But yeah, it was it came out slightly after Trial, so it might be sort of a 0.5 phase thing, and we end up having quite a long phase for where Trial is the current raid.
Yeah,
right. I would imagine that they'd delay it.
Yeah, till afterwards. I think they would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would absolutely. Yeah. It would absolutely come after. I think it's going to be one of those where they drop it. I would see it as a separate phase. I think it would be. I think we're going to get 6 phases actually, and then this would be phase. Well, phase 3 is going to be TOC, which we're going to talk about, and then Onyxia would be phase 4. But then the PvP season, would be both of those together. Because it's the only way they're going to be able to balance the arena seasons, I think. But let's talk about TOC first, anyway. So WillE, you said you was doing TOC back in the day, weren't you?
Yeah, I did do it a little bit. Yeah. I have some memories of it for sure.
Let's hear some of those memories.
You know what? I feel like the most controversial thing I have to say is that I never minded faction champions as a fight, and I found it kind of fun. But now I've done a few Magister's Terrace heroics, I'm kind of dreading it. The NPCs they're so annoying, man. And if it's pre-nerf, I was looking at these, a bunch of them got their damage low by 50%. So pre-nerf faction champions might actually just all coordinate and just delete one people if they are pre-nerf.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I feel like it gets a really bad reputation because for a raid, it's like a room, and then the floor disappears, and it's another room, and that's the entire raid. But yeah, I kind of hope it doesn't drag on too much. What did I play then? I think at that point I was playing a Disc Priest. I changed what I played a bunch.
I like TOC. I like I really enjoy the fact that there's no trash. It's just boss after boss, and the way it works. Which Rugs you can talk us through, like tribute to insanity, tribute to immortality, and all that, and what people are going to get from it. But I think it's a really interesting system for a raid where it's layered. Yes, it's only 5 bosses, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you too, Scotty. I think I'm in the minority coming from a private server experience player. I think most of my friend group and circle would probably say like, yo, fuck T9, like TSC is the worst raid ever. Like, I don't really mind it that much. I actually think the boss fights are pretty decent and there's no trash. Like, it's easy peasy, like breezy. And I think heroic TSC is actually kind of cheeky, fun, and challenging. It doesn't have to be like the challenge is getting 50-50, and 50-50 is like the biggest thing in T9. And let me explain that is you go in, set it on heroic mode. You have 50 attempts to clear all the bosses. Otherwise, you're not going to get this extra loot at the end. The extra loot comes in tiers. And I believe the first tier, so the first one is 50-50. Comes with a title, comes with a mount, comes with extra loot. These cloaks that are really high item level. They're best in slot forever for a lot of classes. Really, really, really good loot. But if you wipe once, your counter goes from 49 to 50. And you miss out on the title, the mount, that extra cloak loot, all that stuff. And then the next tier, I believe, is 45 out of 50. So if you wipe 5 times on any of the bosses at all, you miss out on even more loot. I believe it's 45. So that's actually a really good way to set up the whole raid. I think it's an enjoyably challenging where you cannot wipe. So despite the raid being easy, you still can't wipe. If you wipe, you are screwing over 24 other people just because you failed on one mechanic. And right off the bat, like the first fight of the instance, like Northern Beast, sure, it's like the first fight of the instance, not supposed to be super hard, but man, people got to dodge the Ice Howl charge. And it sounds like simple. I get it. I know it sounds simple, but so is like moving out of the raid on Eridar Twins with Conflag. Simple thing. But like, if you fuck it up, like you're screwing over the rest of your raid. And I genuinely like TOC. I think also Anubarak to me is really similar to Muru. You're trying to constantly balance like boss damage and ad damage. The perfect balance of getting that type of damage out cleanly so that you can push all the ads dead before the next wave spawns while continuing to push boss damage before you die to enrage. And the Anubarak fight is, to me, the perfect cleave fight. Mm-hmm. It's like always one mob and then 5 mobs total. It's so amazing. Like, it's a really good fight. It's pretty straightforward and simple, but there's some cheeky things that will straight up wipe your group, and it is not something to sleep on. You definitely need to prepare for a fight like that.
Oh, and it's great having the kiting of the spikes. So calling out, having using bubbles, hand of protections, ice blocks, rocket boosts. Like all of these things where you want to just prolong that. Because you've got limited ice on heroic, so you can't just be running them straight in. Which, for anyone who don't know, you basically get kited by Anabaraks, like spikes under the ground, and you want to kite it for as long as possible. But the longer you kite it for, the faster it gets to the point where you cannot get away. So ideally, you want to kite it until the point where you can't get away. Get a hand of protection right next to an ice patch. Just as hand of protection's about to run out, bang, you walk it onto the ice patch. And then you're going to have like a hunter shooting down, or a mage, whatever, a range, just shooting down orbs. Although it seems a very popular thing on private servers to have DKs doing it, which really annoyed me when I was playing my DK, but just really annoying. Yeah. But yeah, it's good. It's a good fight. They're all good fights. I think in TOC, they're all good fights. I think it's an interesting system. Being able to, that it's frustrating. If you're going in there for a tribute run and somebody dies, and you wipe, it is very, very annoying. But a lot of achievements for that place, a lot of extra loot, a mount. There's a lot of things to get. But WillE,
we'll see that week 1. Oh, sorry, go on.
And what I think we'll see it week 1. Personally, it's
the thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, people have it. They'll have it perfected before it even launches. But I don't want to overplay it. I don't think it's particularly difficult as a whole. I think it's just an interesting raid. I don't, I would say even on heroic, the majority of the bosses are maybe equal to some of the Uldawar hard modes. I don't think they're ridiculously hard. But like you said, come.
But just to say, I mean, they are easy. I think about like the last race that we had with Sunwell. Like Progress was on Felmist and had a bad call or something, and they wiped to the breath on Felmist. And it was hilarious and it was terrible though. I mean, they like lost so much time because they wiped on a boss like that. Like imagine that in T9. Like a simple mechanic, maybe on like faction champs or twin valks, like messing up one thing, boom, you're ruined. Like there goes 50-50.
Yeah, that's your weekly run. Yeah, absolutely scuffed.
Tribute to immortality as well.
Yeah, immortality is 0 deaths in it, and you get
It's
the title.
One person, not even a wipe for one person.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It comes with so many interesting achievements. But like, let's be honest. Tribute to immortality, faction champs, very, very easy to just get unlucky and get just completely gimped by a few of them at the same time. So yeah, it's gonna be a frustrating yet fun raid. But what I was about to say to you, WillE, is what's even better than that? What comes in? What's going to come in Phase 3 that's even better than Trial of the Crusader?
Everyone's favorite feature in Phase 3, without a single shadow of a doubt, will be the jousting dailies. Absolutely phenomenal content. Who doesn't love that? Enjoy that so much with however many there is to do each day. I only did them later on. I never did them. Well, I did some of them during the expansion, but yeah, we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, dungeon too.
Well, I was just about to say, the good thing is you can go and do your jousting dailies to practice and then go into the dungeon. Yeah.
Oh boy. Great.
The dungeon's really good though. The dungeon is really good. Trial of the Champion, 5-man, normal and heroic. Really good catch-up gear. For somebody, if you just started in Phase 3, we're going to keep calling it Phase 3, even though we don't know, but we're going to say it's Phase 3.
Yeah.
It's fairly, I'd say that one's a given.
Yeah. But I remember re-gearing up characters then. The what's that haste trinket? It's like 213 item level for casters.
Yeah, there's a good trinket in there for sure. For everyone, really. There's an armor pin trinket too, and a tank trinket there too.
It's 232 eye level, isn't it? 2-3. Is it 232? Or is it 219? Might be 219, thinking about it. Fairly sure the trinket is 219. There's an intellect one as well, yeah, like the Holy Paladin one. There's the Banner of Victory, the armor pen trinket, which a lot of people are going to want to get. Even probably in current content, if they've been unlucky with trinkets, you'll get armor pen users that will probably want to go and get Banner.
Yeah, so there's that. There's all the dailies. Obviously, if you like your collectible stuff, you're going to be spending a lot of time on a horse. Put it like that. Yeah. Is there anything else that's major in the phase?
Dailies,
gem, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, well, the big thing is going to be epic gems for blacksmithing. So if we're going profession and it was to go through how we're sort of guessing, then epic gems become available during TOC as well. Which, if now at that point, if they're gonna sort of hold back on professions to keep them more in line with blacksmith up to that point. So an example would be the engineering so the haste on gloves. It only lasted 10 seconds, whereas it then got put up to 12 seconds. So they could potentially have the haste on gloves only lasting 10 seconds up until the point where we get TOC and the epic gems come out. Then it goes up to 12. So depending on how the other professions, if they're even going to get balanced, around everything else, then we could see a lot of profession changes all come in with Phase 3 at the same time as the epic gems drop in. But outside of that, I don't think there's anything major. I wouldn't say there's anything sort of major that we haven't already covered. Like we spoke about the book being turned into like an heirloom. What about the shoulder enchants from Sons of Hodir? Was it 3.2 when they actually became bind on account as well? That could have been 3.3, but for some reason I have a feeling that a lot of the stuff turned to heirloom in 3.2. Like shoulder enchants, head enchants, so where you get your head enchants from like Kirin Tor, Wormrest Accord, all of those. Obviously, if you start an alt, you don't need to do that reputation. You can just jump straight in TOC, get all your gear in TOC, and send the enchants over.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think stuff like that, the bind on account enchants, could see that being from day one.
I think so too. I actually completely didn't know that those were time gated onto like a patch 3.2 or something, Scotty. So
yeah, no, you used to actually have to have the reputation, and then that just changed.
I guess the only other thing about T9 that we haven't talked about is the fact that there's 4 raid IDs for the same raid.
It's definitely one worth talking about. We've got a question. Yeah, we've got a question. So should we bring?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we've got a question from Chris K saying, "Greetings, Scotty and Willie J." We'll pretend he said Rugs and I edit it out. We'll say it said Rugsy J as well, but for some reason,
how'd you miss him, Chris?
I must have accidentally cropped it. We know Blizzard is thinking about tuning some encounters so people don't feel obligated to run the same raid 4 different times per lockout. But do you think this is actually healthy for the community, or will we just see hardcore guilds doing split runs and more casual / pugs, looking for more whatever raid item reserve like we see now? And he's even said, like Gruul with DST. Most people, it's either a Gruul GDKP, or if you see a pug Gruul nowadays, I've not seen many Gruul runs without DST being hard reserved. So, I think he's definitely got a point. And then a bonus, for those of us who don't have a ton of time to raid, what are the best phases to coast? And conversely, the best phases to push if you want to stay relevant and semi-competitive. So that's from Variants on Mizrael. We'll cover the first bit, initially. So, WillE, what's your opinion on the whole lockouts being changed?
I can certainly see why they did it. I mean, if Blizzard go into Classic with a philosophy of we want things to be how they were in the final patch because that is the best patch and most complete patch, they made that decision in ICC to make them share lockouts. So I don't see any world where they don't backport that onto trial. So I certainly think they will do it. And in terms of doing 4 per week, I mean, I can't say I've done it, but I can't say I imagine I would enjoy it that much. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing Mount Hyjal sometimes, and it's getting pretty painful. So, yeah, I think there's certainly an argument for having them share lockouts. So you're only doing it twice.
Well, some of them, like trinkets, you could actually use the normal version and the heroic version together. Which there's things like that where it could get interesting, or they just make them unique. Like Death's Verdict, you could use Death Verdict normal and heroic, and that's a very good trinket. It's like using 2 Dark Moon Card Greatness, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got that one, the MP5 one, and the Reign of the Dead, the caster one.
Yeah. Right, and even the tank one. Like tanks will want to run the double stamina one, both normal and heroic. All of these trinkets are best in slot for basically everyone in the entire game to run both the heroic and normal version. So yeah, they definitely could make them unique, like you're saying, Scotty. Another thing they could do is they could add the normal loot also included with the heroic boss kill as well. So like you kill a boss and you see like 8 items drop instead of 4 or whatever the number is. Like that would be actually insane if they did that. But at the end of the day, like I have to disagree with WillE. I hope that WillE is wrong. I hope that Blizzard does not do this. I really don't want to see a tier 9 patch where there are only 2 raid IDs, like a 10-man and a 25-man. Because a tier 9 with 4 raid IDs is genuinely the only thing keeping people involved in that patch at all. It's the fastest, most boring patch. There's already 0 trash in both the dungeon and all the raids. 0 trash. They are done very, 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 very quickly. And in fact, 10-man normal is something that you can basically skip. Like you can maybe run that a couple times for the badges, or you can just run it on alts for the badges or for catch-up gear. But the 10-man normal, you don't have to do. So it's really only 3 raid IDs. I think people are kind of getting baited into the fact that they have to do 4 raid IDs. It's really just 3. 10-man heroic is pretty fast. A nice little challenge, get a good group together. It's kind of like similar difficulty to, like, I'd say ZA. You want a decent group, go into 10-man, kill it, get 50-50. And then 25-man, it's easy peasy breezy. I mean, you can either split run that with your guild, you can just like clear it with a bunch of pugs, you can GDKP it. That thing's going to be done in 30 minutes. I'm telling you, 30 minutes of your time. It's not a chore like doing Hyjal is. It's not like that at all. It's so easy. And then heroic. I mean, heroic is genuinely like the only thing like people will care about because that's the challenge. That's the push for 50-50. That's the progression on a noob that is actually really challenging for a lot of guilds. I think like the patch is fine. Like I think people are overreacting to the 4 ID thing, and people just need to like look. It's okay how it is. It's genuinely okay.
Well, it's gonna like even that, doing heroic 25. It's going from a 30-minute raid to like a 35-minute raid. It's still, it's going to add a little bit of time, but it's still, once you've got it on farm and you all know what you're doing, it's still really, really quick. You're talking a 1-hour raid night, and you'll do both. You'll do 25 normal, you'll go and blitz through that, do 25 heroic. let's say an hour and a half. Let's say it's going to take an hour and a half max. And that's your raid night done. Then it's like, all right, okay, see you next week.
I actually didn't know it was that fast. That's good to know. I think I had it overestimated as well. But in terms of what I think Blizzard will do, again, because they made that decision in ICC to change things, that they may go back and do it. And they might even stop the trinkets from stacking, because they also made that decision in ICC.
Well, they're going to have to. If they're going to reduce it to just 2 lockouts, they have to change the trinkets, because they have to make them unique. Because otherwise, it's going to be so bad if you're that guy who missed out on the normal version. All right, great, you've got the heroic version, but your guild no longer are interested in running normal anymore. What do? Do you say to your guild, sorry, I need to pug, I need to go and do normal this week. Like it's my best trinket. I need to go and get it. It's going to cause some real big issues. So yeah, the easy option,
to get it.
Make it unique, and then that job done on it. Like that. But
the
they
solution,
need to think about it.
Go with you.
No, the solution is just make the phase short. Just make the phase short. Like that's it. It's got to be the shortest phase possible. But like, I hate these other like wonky, weird ass solutions. To me, like they kind of trigger me. It's definitely been something that's been on my mind a lot lately. That I hate this idea of like sharing the lockouts in T9 and all these solutions with the trinkets. But I like where your head's at, and I do think like those are probably like the only realistic solutions that Blizzard could go. But just leave it as is and make their phase short. It's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with it staying as it is. Yeah, personally, I like more to raid. I like having more to raid, and especially when like going in and doing 10 man heroic. Like it's not long enough for me to worry about. If it was like 4 difficulties of Uldawar or something ridiculous, then I'd be like, no, that needs to change.
Good God, yeah,
absolutely. Actually, that's one of the reasons they did change in ICC, because ICC is it's big.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like mandatory for ICC.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Okay,
so bad.
Yeah, they're going to change it. Like I can already see it coming. It's going to be 2 lockouts. But as long as they think about the small details as well of the knock-on effect that's going to have, when it comes to gearing, that's the important part, which I'm sure I'll be very vocal about over the over the next few months. That's our thoughts on it anyway. Chris, what take from that what you will. But on to your second question. So for those of us who don't have a ton of time to raid, what are the best phases to coast, and conversely, the best phases to push? I've not started on any of these, so I'll give you my thoughts first. Coasting, I would say phase 1, and I'd say phase 1 and actually the ICC phase, which is going to be a weird thing, and everyone's going to be like, what? But actually, in terms of being able to get respectable gear very easily, they're like the best 2 phases to get geared. Phase 1, you can pug everything, very comfortably, and then come phase 5, which we're going to assume ICC would be like phase 5. You've got the heroic dungeons, Pit of Sauron, Halls of Reflection, all of that, which drops very, very good, what's meant to be catch-up gear. But then, ICC 10-man, normal, I'd imagine will be being pugged more or less from day one. I think actually the first and not the last phase, because the last phase would be Ruby Sanctum. But, tier 7 and tier 10, coasting, pushing a bit harder. I would actually say tier 9, personally. I think trying to get as much heroic gear from tier 9 is only going to make your tier 10 a lot more comfortable, and you wouldn't need to worry as much. And then, by the time you're in ICC, it's going to be the Sunwell effect, which is where, most people at the moment are more bothered about Wrath than they are ICC. And I see that, I hear it every day. I know people are loving raiding Sunwell, that's great. But even the people that are loving raiding Sunwell are still looking at Wrath, and they're like, what am I going to be doing? When's it coming? And all of that. So I think by the time you've cleared ICC a couple of times, you're probably going to be like, when's Dragon Soul out? Not Dragon Soul, when's Ruby Sanctum out? So we can get on to whatever's next. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll pass over the rugs. In terms of myself, I haven't practically played through the expansion in a long time, so I'm not sure.
I was going to go a different direction than Scotty, actually, but you actually convinced me.
No, don't let me convince you. What was your direction going to be? No, go on.
I love your thought process with pushing in tier 9 so that you are more prepared for ICC, because ICC is a big raid. Like that's a big, like the poster raid of the expansion, that and Uldawar. But that's a really, really good point. The only thing I was going to say is like T9, there's so much catch up mechanics. Like the dungeon drops good loot, the 10 mans drop good loot and they're easy. 25 normal, super easy, drops good loot. The T9 just is like such an easy way to like get caught up that you can chill. Like you can just raid log, you can log on like during your lunch break and go clear like a TOC 25 normal. Like that's how easy and fast it is. Like things like that. I would have thought like that's a great one to chill on. And then yes, of course, pushing in Uldawar is like gotta be like the biggest thing. Like that raid is like way too amazing to sleep on. Do not miss out on one of the best raids Blizzard has ever made because you just want to chill. Like go hard on Uldawar. Everyone should go hard.
We like the Uldawar.
I'm revisiting it now. So yeah, don't do what I did back in 2008 or 9, whenever it came out.
What you definitely don't want to do, like anyone and everyone, like if you're playing on Warmane at the moment, like whatever you're doing, you do not want to burn out in the first phase and miss a second of phase 2. Like that, like 100%. You know, if you start getting bored in phase 1, have a couple of weeks off, have a little break, you know, refresh yourself, ready for Uldawar, because yeah, that phase we're probably never going to do it again, and it's going to be one that you're just going to want to enjoy it.
Some of the biggest mistakes you can make is not having an alt ready for when phase 2 comes out, because Uldawar is so fun. You will do your 10-man and then your 25-man ID, and then you'll be like, shit,
I want to go again.
Like, I want to go again.
Run it back, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really good point. It is a really good point.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Are we happy? Are we happy with our answers for that question then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really have much to add. Like I'm just going to be pushing the whole thing. So
yeah, from start to finish on 7 characters.
Yeah. Oh god. Okay, but maybe not that many, but you know, probably play a few.
Okay. So we've got Tok out the way. And we've spoke about Onyxia briefly. I don't think we really need to go too much in detail on Onyxia. It's probably going to be a filler phase just to be able to extend the arena season is what we're guessing. And it drops tier heads, but they're not tier heads. They look like the old, tier 2 heads, but it's just the skin. They're different.
There's no achievement anymore either, in case you're wondering.
No.
And I don't think
you can get a mount. You can get a free 10 speed mount though. One of the easiest free 10 speed mounts to get.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but none of this loot from Onyxia replaces any Bisc gear for any class at all.
No. Definitely not that I've seen.
Which is just kind of funny because like the 0.5 phase with ZA that came out, like there's a lot of upgrades in there. And this 0.5 phase that we'd be getting with Onyxia is just straight catch up.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of flavor items where, like, even the tier headpieces have fire resist and stuff on. Like, who cares about that anymore? It's just a bit of vanilla flavor thrown in there, you know?
Exactly. I mean, some of it's decent though. You get a bag as well. Yeah, Lee's just said in chat. But yeah, you're gonna want to do it. You're gonna want to do it every reset. And like the necks are good. Yeah, so you can get the like Oni head quest to get like a neck ring and trinket. I'm sure it's still exactly the same. Type of items, but in general, it's catch up gear. That's what it is. Catch up gear or just nice stuff to have. So let's gloss over that and let's get to the big boy raid. And it is for me, arguably, it's only a tiny, and I mean like a tiny little bit below Uldawar. I love ICC, like really, really big fan. To the point where I'm intentionally not raiding it anywhere because I want it to be fresh for me. So I completely skipped ICC on Synergy. I mean, part of that was because the server was dying anyway. But I've got characters on Ice Crown that I could go on now. Or they're in ICC gear. I could go and raid, but I'm choosing not to. The last time I stepped foot in ICC was probably 2 years ago, I'd say, and I want it to stay that way. I'm not even like to the point. I'm not even going to go on the PTR for ICC when it's up. I want to go in there because I love it. Like I really do. It's very, very close to Uldawar for me. Some really different fights. Professor Putricide, Blood Queen Lanafel, Voliferia, even the Dreamwalker, like such a fantastic fight, even though most DPS absolutely hate it. But, healers actually got a boss where it's meaningful. And obviously, the Lich King, it is just such a legendary fight that I wouldn't risk being burnt out of it because it's just going to be too good. But what are your guys? So, WillE, we'll start with you as you escaped the last question. A bit too easy. Didn't like it.
Okay.
What's your memories of ICC?
So in ICC, I played, again, very casual gamer at the time, pugging, stuff like that. I did remember getting Arthas down, and at the time I played a Blood Elf female, Blood DK. And it was just a lot of fun. I also pugged it occasionally I played a Disc Priest as well. I remember both of them being great at that phase of the game. A lot of fun to play. I particularly remember one pull on Syndragosa. It was on normal, like 10 or 25 or something. I don't remember exactly. But I was there on my Blood DK and everyone else had died. And I was just there, like, living for like a few minutes by myself. And I always found that funny. But no, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As I say, with all these other raids, I haven't done them in a very long time. So, same as you, Scotty. Staying fresh.
I need to stay fresh for ICC.
I can wait.
What about you, though?
Wait a bit more.
Yeah, and as I say, ICC is one that I really want to relish. But Rugs, what's your? Obviously, I know you've done loads and loads of private servers, but you know as well as I do, staying from start to finish on a private server is quite a rare thing for a lot of people. The next fresh is coming out before that server's finished. So,
exactly. I suffer from the worst of it too, man. I will jump on a hype train like nobody's business, man. But yeah, I agree 100% with you, Scotty. To me, it's Uldawar and then ICC just right underneath it in terms of my favorite raids. I think Lich King on Heroic, the Light of Dawn fight is probably the best fight in the entire expansion. One of the best fights Blizzard has ever made, ever. It's just a phenomenal fight. And there's so many fights in ICC that are quality progression fights, and they're all like with their own unique style of doing things. Like I think about Deathbringer Sourfang. It's literally just a standstill fight. Nobody moves a muscle on that fight. You barely move on Blood Queen Lanathel, and then a fight like Professor Putricide requires so much movement. Lich King, there's so much movement, and it's a great, phenomenal raid. The only fight that sucks is the gunship.
Oh, but I was about to say, loot ship's great. I love loot ship.
I did loot ship for right back in the day, yeah.
No vehicle though, right? So
putting on, I used to love
the guns.
Yeah, you got the guns, and then you'd have to use the flying jetpack things, wouldn't you? And you'd go over, and then you'd have to, and then you'd have to kill the mage that's freezing the cannons. Oh, I used to absolutely love that fight because I just remember. I could be remembering wrongly, but I'm sure when it first came out, you used to be able to rocket boots and parachute from one ship to the other. I've not seen it happen on private servers, but you used to be able to, if you timed it right, you didn't even need to use the rocket pack. But just a little tidbit I thought I'd throw in there.
Good old loot ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
it's a Sourfang, and you're like, okay, bye then. This is actually a boss.
But it was great. It was so different. I can't stress that enough. That there's that's the flavour it's got is like Uldawar. Where no two bosses feel the same. You've got like Festegut and Rotface, where they're both essentially they look very similar, but one's very very melee friendly, one's really really range friendly. You've even got like two mini bosses outside where everybody's going to be trying to get the bloody tabard, just because it actually gives you a little buff that does absolutely nothing. There's just so much good stuff in ICC. Yeah, best in show. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ICC is so cool that with the private server community, since it is the last raid of the expansion, it's a raid that has actually been pushed to its limits. I think Uldawar is a raid because it's midway through the expansion. People at the very most are just split running it. No one's actually choosing to drop healers and solo heal fights and solo tank fights. Because ICC has been out for so long, and most of this is credit to Warmane Icecrown, truthfully, as much as I hate Warmane Icecrown, they have like population and a base where people love playing the expansion so much. There's guilds that have multiple Shadowmourns and multiple people in like full Bisque gear. You're going into ICC and you're doing like silly shit where you're solo tanking Light of Dawn, or solo tanking Bane, or solo healing Bane, or 2 healing Light of Dawn, or solo healing Light of Dawn, or solo healing heroic Professor Putricide. That's stuff that won't be happening the first few weeks in Classic. Like, this raid is extremely hard, but I'm excited to push it to its limits, and I'm excited to do that with other raids like Uldawar. Like, how much can we actually push it to its limits, like people have proven that you can do in heroic ICC? So it's just a phenomenal little playground to mess around with, as it for a parser like me.
Absolutely. Anything? So obviously, outside of just that, outside of just ICC, which is enough on its own anyway. It's fantastic enough. We do get a lot actually added in the ICC patch, especially in terms of catch-up mechanics or catch-up gear. What do you want to tell us about that, Ruggs?
Well, we have the 3 dungeons. Which I don't know if we want to talk about the dungeons at all, but I think the dungeons that come out with the ICC patch are actually really cool. There's a lot of really good flavor with those dungeons. They're really fun. WillE, do you remember doing them? Oh
yeah, absolutely. The first room in Halls of Reflection teaches you the value of line of sight. I remember that.
Yeah.
People are just the ads would spawn, they'd be next to someone, they'd just blow them up, and yeah, that was fun. Then you've got the little chase scene afterward to the Lich King. Forge of Souls, you just get knocked off the edge of the platform. I seem to remember there being these little ghosts that spawn or something. Boss drops a bag, and the last boss drops a armor pen trinket that's pretty good. And what else? Pit of Sauron.
Farming Hill. That's
yeah,
Pit of Sauron.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Farming Hill. It's just everyone's going to be doing it.
Again, it's good catch-up gear. Really good.
Mm-hmm. And the badge gear, like we said before, there's new badge gear with every phase. The badge gear in ICC is really good too. I know there's a phenomenal tank trinket, a really good physical DPS trinket. There's a lot of good stuff there.
And the reputation's very important as well, isn't it? Because for the rings,
right?
Getting exalted, the rings have got a proc on. They're really strong. The rings. But yeah, and the free dungeons. Basically, if you was to start, you're not at that much of, well, you are at a disadvantage. Like, don't mix up my words, but it's not a massive disadvantage when you start in the ICC patch, just because you've got so many gearing options. You can go straight, do your heroics, get a few bits, then go straight into TOC. Running the 5-man one, like Trial of the Champion, on normal and heroic, get the gear from there, then do all of the heroic, the 3 heroics that come with ICC, get all the gear from those, using badge gear as well, getting into 10-man ICC normal, which you will, because I believe the gear from those 5-man heroics is 2-3-2 eye level anyway. So, it's a decent eye level. Yeah. And you can, you get the hilt for a weapon, which, not everyone's going to want it, but still, that's going to sell really well.
I believe ICC is the first raid where 100% of the trash drops that drop are all BOE. I'm pretty sure of it. All of them are fully BOE, which will sell for a lot, but it's also another catch-up mechanic. People will literally do trash farms for up till the first boss in Marrowgar. You'll clear that whole first room for Reputation 1 and for trash drops too. So those will be happening constantly.
Yeah. I mean, people are doing that with Sunwell right now, like the first 2 packs for some moats and the epics.
Yeah,
and the first 2 packs reset, go again.
Imagine if those trash packs gave reputation to Shattered Sun. That's how it is in ICC. Like, you will be really encouraged to do trash farms.
I didn't realize they did. It's kind of weird with the Shattered Sun. All this work to open the Sunwell. Like, you literally kill Jade, and then they're like, yeah, whatever. Don't really care. They do a daily. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
But the other thing as well, which will be interesting, which I think is going to happen, will be like mages trash farming solo in Pit of Sauron for hilts to sell and stuff like that. Because we used to go with minimal amounts of people, but I don't remember mage soloing stuff quite as prominent as it is now. It used to happen. Don't get me wrong.
Mages are doing Sunwell farming.
They're doing Sunwell farming.
Yeah.
What as in not just a group of mages? What, like a few mages together?
Mages, I think, I don't know how it works, but I've seen people doing it. I guess you just sheep a bunch of dangerous stuff and then press Blizzard. OP class, to be honest.
Sounds easy. We should go and do it after this.
Yeah. I've heard of that. There's two other things actually I want to mention with ICC. Maybe you're getting back around to them, but first of all, with the recent Wowhead interview, Brian said they're going to consider putting in the scaling difficulty modifier to where you can choose what you want out of it.
So yeah.
Initially, ICC launched, time went past, and then Blizzard hotfixed in a buff which gave you 5% more shield damage, 5% less damage taken, a whole bunch of other stuff. And then after another 2 weeks, it went to 10%, and then eventually it was 30%. So the raid started to get much easier, and you could turn the whole thing off or have it on, but you couldn't choose what level you wanted it to be at, and it went up in 5% increments. And I think they're thinking about having that from potentially around the start, so you can sort of tailor your difficulty of ICC.
Well, it was actually never killed. Like, yeah, it was later on, but the first kill was done just before the 10% buff went out. So even when I'm guessing it was probably Paragon back in the day, it was no one actually killed it on the 0% buff until later down the line.
I'm really glad you brought that up, WillE. I forgot to talk about that in a previous video of mine, and it's something that I could rant about for a long time because I think that's a big mistake by Blizzard. One thing that people look forward to is the challenge of ICC, and the biggest challenge is doing the whole content on 0%. Getting a 0% Light of Dawn without like 5 Shadow Morns in the raid and full Bisque gear, like, is a big fucking deal. That matters. Like, people constantly are asking in the classic community for buffs or for things to be harder, and like people don't want like easy breezy content. They're constantly asking for pre-nerf rather than post-nerf bosses. Like, please, Blizzard, if you're listening, delay the 30% buff as long as possible. My suggestion would be to leave it on 0%. Don't give us the 5%, 10%, yada yada. Leave it on 0% for the first 5 weeks, and then after that, you can give us 30% the 6th week or something like that. But the gradual increase is just going to completely mess with the competitiveness of like the guilds who really want to push and like set themselves apart from the rest of the pack. Like the constant like increase is just going to like, it's literally hand holding you for your progression. It's like saying, all right, you can't do it this week. Let me just drag your ass up. We're going to get through this next phase anyway, because you don't have the gear, or you don't have the brain capacity to like push this boss like as much DPS as you can here. It's pretty pathetic to me.
I would have it progressive personally, but yeah, go on, WillE. Yeah. I was just going to say I would still have it progressive, but yeah, certainly.
Yeah. I don't feel that strongly about it as Rogues does, but I guess people are just going to pick the easy version, right? But there'll always be guilds out there who want to push the hardest version. But if you give people a choice, they're going to take the easy choice.
Exactly.
It's easy. I don't know how to put it. So yeah, it does take something away, and then you're not getting any other reward, are you, from having it being more difficult, other than saying, "Yeah, I did this. Trust me, bro."
Exactly.
Exactly that.
So,
well, that's what I said recently about it. Is that it? You know, I would just have a month or so with nothing, progressively do it 5% at a time, up to 30%. But at any time when it goes over 5%, you can turn it down. So if the 15% buffs out, you can still carry on doing it with a 5% or 10%. But I also do feel like it should be incentivized a little bit. Whether it's a chest after each boss, which has just got a chance at 1 BOE epic, or I don't know, just something. So and it progressively gets better. So at 0%, you get maximum gain. At 30%, you get nothing extra.
Yeah, there's grounds to actually argue for something like that, since Trial does that with bonus loot, where it's on the hardest difficulty, because I guess not dying or wiping is a harder difficulty. So if it was on 0%, you get a little bonus box at the end or something.
Yeah, right. I agree. Just because there's a lot of people, like Rugs said, it'll be a great flex to do like a Dawn with 0%. But then once that's done, if there's no incentive to continue clearing it on the 0% buff, even the most hardcore guild surely would see, well, there's no point. We'll just put the 30% on now. We've done it. We've got the achievement. It's all done. There's no point continuing on. But if there was a point to continue on, because let's face it, it's good. 0% is going to be a real 0%. Light of Dawn is going to be a real achievement. More of an achievement than the actual achievement is.
How does the mount drops work in Wrath for Mimron and Light of?
It's 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you actually brought that up because I was just about to say, if we're doing incentives like Scotty said, the incentives have to be really fucking good because as it is, the difference between Yogg 0 and Yogg 1, the only difference in terms of loot is Yogg 0 gives the mount and all the other same item drops, but Yogg 1 is way easier than Yogg 0. Yogg 0 is really challenging. That's a really tough fight. One of the hardest in the entire expansion. It literally might be Light of Dawn 0% and then Yogg 0. Like that's how challenging this is. Like I'm not sure exactly how I'd rank them, but just trust me. Like Yogg 0 is really, really, really hard. And once guilds do it once, they'll probably never do it again. Even though the mount drops from it, a lot of guilds will just say, "Yeah, it's not really worth the effort." And so the incentive has to be really good.
Yeah. I mean that's mainly for ICC. I think the incentive of Mimiron's head is probably enough in Uldawar on it to keep going through. But even Uldawar, if Uldawar it will never have one. I'm just saying, for instance, if Uldawar had a 30% damage buff, healing buff and all of that, and you were still going to get Mimiron's head at the end, you'd put it on, wouldn't you? Why mess about?
Oh yeah. Oh, every single day. Yeah. Yeah. Easy.
All right. Cool. Are we happy with the ICC phase? I don't feel like we've left anything out. Oh, gone.
I could bring up. It's probably a moot point. Doesn't really matter. But back in the day, the content release was delayed, similar to what should have happened in Sunwell if it followed what happened originally, where not all the content was available day one.
Right.
Expecting them to go back on that and just say, do Lich King Heroic day one if you want. Here's your attempts. I
would think it'll just be open. Personally, yeah. It opened over. It opened. Hang on, what? I think there'll be a limit.
The attempt scaled. The attempt started at like 5, I think.
I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Yeah, you're right though. They definitely. I think they released them per wing per week.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I thought that was what you meant. Yeah, I thought you meant at the raids opening. I don't remember there being a limit on attempts, but yeah,
there was both. So it was delayed, and there was attempts, but the attempts scaled with the weeks.
Right.
So originally, it went up to Sauerfang, I think, and then the following week, Plague Work opened, then Blood, and then Frost.
It's also my understanding. It's also my understanding you can't attempt a boss on heroic until you kill it on normal. You cannot physically change the ID to heroic until you kill it on normal. So no matter what, the first week you have to clear everything on normal.
Well, I think then you just needed someone who had killed the Lich King on normal to be able to set it to heroic. I can't remember when that changed.
Exactly.
But so it weren't like the whole group. Yeah, just somebody, the leader had to. But yeah, I honestly I don't remember the whole attempt things. Obviously, I remember being online at 11 a.m. when the server was, going online for the next wing opening, and we was going in and server first in all the wings. We was literally on the second it went live. I remember them opening, but I honestly don't remember. I don't remember having to walk away from a boss going, "Oh well, we'll try next week." Yeah, it probably did. I'm sure it happened, but I genuinely don't remember it. I wouldn't imagine that.
This is stuff I was looking up. I'm just gonna see if I can find the page because I've probably got it here somewhere. But yeah,
I think end wing bosses were the only ones that were limited.
I think the end wing boss limits.
Yes, they shared a limit pool. Here you go, found it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's actually a good thing to leave in place. The limits on bosses, especially early on, and you can add more attempts as we go on. But it's also there's just innate, like built-in time gating of progression as well. It's literally 1 week of normal. I think that's good too. 1 week, everyone full clears on normal. The next week, it's like a race for like who can clear heroic, and the heroic progression begins. I think that's cool too.
Yeah, me personally though, I don't think they will. I don't think they'll put limits on. I think the raid will be fully open. I don't think they'll open it in Wings. It'll all be open, and you can wipe as many times as you want. Yeah, that's just my guess. That's how I would imagine that they'd do it. It's not. That's really making content inaccessible for people.
Thing in the chat from January 2010.
Do you think
one of my videos?
Do you think, Scotty, that we will do like we'll have access to heroic bosses week 1? Is that what you're saying too?
Oh no. I mean, you'd still have to clear normal. No, I just meant it won't open progressively over time, like Sunwell did. Sunwell opened in 2 halves back in the day. And this opened in 5. You'd have had 1 quarter at a time, and then Syndragosa and Lich King. So I'd imagine it'll all just be there at the start. Could be wrong. I mean, it's not a bad thing gating the content like that, but limiting how many times you're allowed to wipe, I think that's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just thought I'd bring it up because.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, because I forgot about it completely. As I say, I don't even remember it being a thing, and I don't know whether that's because we just killed them before the limit even mattered. But I don't ever recall being so disappointed that we had to walk away from a raid because we ran out of attempts. That's probably why I don't stick in my mind.
Paragon's killed as attempts on it.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out after this. All right. Well, we've only got. I've got no user submitted questions that was around ICC, so we can gloss over that because it's been 2 hours 15 minutes anyway. I like to try and keep it around 2.5 if possible.
Yep.
And you've got a busy day, WillE, because you're off onto another podcast after this, aren't you?
Indeed, yeah. It's a tough life, yeah.
Yeah. I'll give him a shout out. So for any of you that are watching that do want to see WillE again later on tonight, it's in a few hours, is it?
Scotty, you want to rapid fire the next 0.5 phase with Ruby Sanctum?
Yeah. We'll go over that.
Yeah,
okay.
In an hour 40ish.
Hour and 40 minutes. You can find WillE on Warcraft Reloaded. So make sure you go and check it out.
Back to back.
Back to back, mate. Yeah. So we won't keep this going too long. So okay. So Ruby Sanctum is just a single boss raid, typical dragon, drops some of the best items in the game that most people are going to want. I mean, obviously I'm always going to talk about armor pen gear, but the armor pen trinket is just fantastic. It's actually on heroic a very challenging encounter for the final, for a final boss. I'd say Lich King heroic is more difficult probably personally, but it is for a single boss. It's pretty challenging. I personally haven't done it on a private server. The same applies. Last time I done Lich King heroic would have been about 2 years ago, and bloody Ruby Sanctum would have been the same. So I've not really got a lot to add other than that. It's a raid that existed, which most people forget about because it was just a filler between Wrath and Kata. It's one of those where if it weren't there, I don't think anyone would really care.
Yeah. I forget about it all the time when people are talking about raid. It's kind of like Vault of Archivon. I'm like, oh yeah, there's all the main tiers, and then people say, and there's this. I'm like, oh, true. Yeah, that exists. The one thing I remember is what's that hidden DK achievement for killing everything?
Hidden DK achievement?
Yeah, if you kill all the dragons, you get an achievement on the DK, I think.
Oh,
what?
Never heard of that. Yeah, I'd verify
I seem to remember that's the thing.
Maybe a retail thing a lot later on, but it weren't in Wrath.
Maybe it was introduced later. But I seem to remember you get a feat of strength or something from it. Killing literally everything in there.
Not that I remember. You could very well be right, but I don't remember a DK specific achievement anyway. But that'd be something I'm looking up after this, though. Ruggs, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh yeah, I mean, Ruby Sanctum is just it's just like a cherry on top. It's throwing a bone to the people who decided to stick around after beating the game. The game is over after you kill Light of Dawn. It's over. I mean, literally, it's just here you go. Here's some extra content. Thanks for continuing to sub.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very unmemorable fight as well. It's just a typical dragon fight. I know you've got like the laser cutters that go around and you have to move away and Shadow Realms and whatever else, but it's all very, it's nothing game changing or, just a very unmemorable.
It's a great fight. It's a good fight, good loot, but
good loot, good fight.
Yeah, just what more do you want from the final final, because it's the final boss, and that's what I don't like. I don't like saying it's the Hallion is the final boss of the expansion when the final boss of the expansion should definitely be the Lich King. It's bizarre.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's like it feels like you're done once you've killed the Lich King. And it's like, there's Hallion, I guess.
Illidan should have been the last boss in the Burning Crusade.
Yeah, exactly. So it's never really mattered too much, is it? But okay, have we got anything else to add? I mean, has there been any real relevant news? I've personally not seen any relevant RAF news for a couple of weeks that I want to talk about. But WillE, have you got anything to add? Because that's pretty much all the phases done.
Yeah, that's I reckon that's a decent phase overview there. Nothing jumping out at me too much. Off to Cataclysm, I guess.
Yeah.
After that.
Ruggs, you got anything?
No, man, I'm good.
Cool beans. All right. Well, look, it's been a fantastic episode. We've answered some questions that have been sent in. We'll continue to do that every week. WillE, I'm eternally grateful for you coming on because you've definitely thrown some amazing points out there that have even confused me and Ruggs, which is always nice. We like that. Just thank you for coming on, mate.
You know where to find me?
Yeah, definitely.
Always happy to. Love talking about the game. So that's what I do.
You'll 100% be coming back on as long as you'll come back on. Hopefully it's not been too bad that you don't want to return.
Now that doing these kind of things, time just snaps by. Disappears, really.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It really does.
All right, well, Ruggs, obviously, much love to you, my friend. I look forward to talking to you again. For anybody who's interested and wanting to know when the next episode is, it will be not next weekend, the weekend after. So next week we've got a weekend off, but the weekend after we're back and we're starting the classes. And I think we're starting with Warrior probably, and we will have a couple of good Warrior guests lined up for you all. So hopefully we see you then. So from me and all the guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.